From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame, you're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
It is 6 minutes past the hour. Thanks for waking up early in the morning. We begin with this, and I have a trio of stories that are almost tied in terms of how I would rank them. So it's usually pretty easy to begin at the beginning, but we've got a log jam. So let me just get going. A few things caught my eye. Gosh, I'm flipping in my mind which one I want to go with first. All right, Juneteenth. Since it's Don Hurley's birthday, Juneteenth, let me begin there. So I don't understand it. I guess you could say they're busy people, so they do the party 10 days early, but they had a concert for Juneteenth. I really think it's stupid to have it on June 10th, but they did. And what I could not unsee, I didn't watch it, thank God, but what I could not unsee was the footage of Kamala Harris dancing and everybody, George Floyd's brother dancing, and all these people. And no problem with that. That was normal. There was music playing. They were swaying. They were moving. Here's the part that I'm highlighting that I cannot unsee. Joe Biden looking like a Tussauds Wax Museum figurine. The man froze and did not move. I mean, if you were hiring someone to be one of those actors that doesn't move, he found a job he can do. Biden's terrible at every job he has, but he was great at being completely frozen. His hands were frozen, his entire body frozen, his face frozen. Had some weird, silly, demented smile, frozen. And this went on and on and on and on. And then he had a hard time getting up out of the chair. I'm telling you, there's some bad stuff going on right now. And it seems as though some in the media are finally willing to say it. But after he got help getting out of his chair, because he was, I don't know if you've ever had that happen. You get up once, but you don't get up, and you kind of rock back, fall back, and he got help getting up. And then he went on to deliver a disgusting, divisive, disgraceful, racist speech. I am tired of being tired of these people like Joe Biden that think that they can call people racists. You know, this is an American president, allegedly. What a divisive, dirty, despicable. Let me see how many D's I can do. Disgusting, divisive, disgraceful, despicable, dastardly. Could I find another one? Is it possible? But I'm not joking. Just terrible. You know what? I'll tell you what I will not accept, and I will not remain silent on it. This making George Floyd like he is Dr. Martin Luther King or something. No. You should not allow that. I'm not going to allow it. I don't care any names that anybody wants to call me for saying it. George Floyd is not someone to admire, to look up to. It's a disgrace. And there is Joe Biden. Why would George Floyd's brother be sitting directly next to the President of the United States? Somebody's got to help me with that one, because that's sick. Nothing against George Floyd's brother. I don't know anything about him. But you get my bigger point. What I say about George Floyd, it's sad that he died. He was responsible. You know, I understand things happen that people disagree with and all of that. But to put him up, prop him up like he is some kind of hero, no. Nope, 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 nope. Item number 2. And you're hearing reports of a second day of, they deliberated for an hour and 10 minutes. It wasn't a first day of deliberation. They got the case very late in the day. And it's good. You get started. It's a good idea. You pick your 4-person and you get going. I will be, unless there is some kind of nullification going on, I would be shocked. Maybe I'll say surprised, not utter shock, but I would be surprised if there's not a jury verdict today. They just come in, and I guess it's either they've been starting at 8:15, maybe. Who knows? I'll let you know when I know, maybe 9 o'clock this morning at the latest. They will begin, maybe sooner. And you know what's interesting to see? But I told you this at the time of the Trump case. The defense did not get to go last with their closing comments with Trump. And in Hunter Biden's trial, the defense did go last. I'll tell you, it's just every turn. Most jurisdictions in the country, at a trial, the defense goes last. It's meant to be that way, so that you don't convict someone that shouldn't be convicted. They let the prosecution go on and on and on in the Trump case last. So it's the last thing the jury heard. Hunter Biden, just the opposite, of course. This is going to be such a test. Can you get a fair verdict in Delaware with a Biden criminal defendant? It's going to be fascinating to see if this can happen. Now, I said it first, and you're all my witnesses. Alan the Dershowitz, late last night, said the best verdict that could happen for President Trump is for Hunter Biden to be acquitted. Who do you know that came up with that idea? That's right. Your boy right here with 2 thumbs pointing right at himself in real time. It was just so apparent to me. It's so easy to see if he's convicted, and he should be convicted. My God, the evidence is unbelievable. Why do you think Jill Biden's in the front row every day? And Jim Biden and all these other Bidens. That courtroom was pooping Bidens. It's all over the place. So I'm not kidding you. I lost count how many Bidens were in that courtroom. And I love, and it was smart, that the prosecution told the jury, quote, people sitting in the gallery are not evidence, quote, end quote. So bright, so important that they said that. But this is a case where the evidence is so incredibly strong. You've had witnesses testify to it. You had the gun shop staff person say, I saw Hunter Biden place the X next to that he's not a drug addict. This Abby Lowell defense. I actually took a screen capture of an item that I saw. I didn't want to read it because it was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and it just irritated the heck out of me. See if I can find it. Pressure of the moment. No, wait a second. That's the way it is. No, I know I took a picture of it. Oh, come on. There are times you take a photo and you think you took it, and it's not there, but I know I took this photo. Where is this thing? This is crazy. I don't want to paraphrase it. I want to be able to tell you. Give me a sec. There it is. All right. This was like a trio of snapshots that I took. Check this out. One article, and I didn't read it. Donald Trump jail sentence, quote, more likely, end quote, law professor predicts. That's Trump's headline. Here's another one. Donald Trump suffers quadruple blow. Here's the Hunter Biden one. This is all Newsweek stuff. I don't know what happened, but my Google Chrome automatically has, and they're like happening during the day that they just pop up on the screen. I have to close these out every morning. Sometimes there's like 20 of them, and every one is a crush Trump or some kind of pro-Biden spin. Now check this out. I just read you the ones about Trump. They're all bad. Quadruple blows. They're likely to go to jail. Professor says. Here's Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden, quote, ridiculous defense could work. I mean, this is what we get. I'm not done with this. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
People all over the Jersey Shore have found the easiest way to stay connected to South Jersey's talk station. It's the WPG Talk Radio app. Read free, unlimited South Jersey news. Listen to your favorite talk shows. Send us breaking news tips and more. The WPG Talk Radio app is powered by Smokers Haven. You'll find the finest selection of cigars at any of their 5 locations. Stop in and let them help you find the perfect cigar to pair with your life. SmokersHavenNJ.com.
Fox News commentary.
A top cancer charity apologizes for using the word cervix instead of trans-friendly front hole. Now I think I've heard it all. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
Gold demand is hitting record highs, but supply may not keep up. I'm Dr. Ron Paul, and I believe physical gold is the only way to truly protect your retirement savings from a chaotic world. To learn how to diversify your IRA or 401k into physical precious metals, text the word SHELTER to 989898 for a free info kit on gold IRAs from Birch Gold Group. That's SHELTER to 989898.
Message and data rates may apply.
It seems Canada is trying to outwoke itself with this one. The Canadian Cancer Society has apologized for using the word cervix instead of trans-friendly front hole. In a statement from the nonprofit's website, the Canadian Cancer Society lamented their mistake and acknowledged that non-binary people have mixed feelings or maybe feel distanced from the term cervix and may prefer more inclusive terms like front hole. The statement also bizarrely claimed that men can have those body parts too, which outside of a very small minority of folks born intersex is a biological lie. Once again, the woke leftists are trying to erase women, our body parts, and everything that makes us scientifically unique in an effort to appease and affirm an extreme faction of the LGBTQ community. Where does it end? I'm Tommy Lahren, and you can watch my show, Tommy Lahren is Fearless, at Outkick.com.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. Hurley in the morning.
They really do separate fact from fiction.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Thank you. 23 minutes past the hour. Just put them side by side. Trump trial, you had Donald Jr. there. You had Eric there. You had other people, very close friends, and so on and so forth. No compassion, no mention. Nothing like this Biden trial where they talk about the Biden family is so close. They come together. Just the whole Hunter trial has been sympathetic. I watched a montage of some of the Democrat analysis. Oh, this could work. Abby Lowell is saying that Hunter Biden didn't know. So that's the new thing. You could go murder somebody, but I didn't know I murdered them. He didn't know he was an addict on the day he did the paperwork. But he was the next day, but just he didn't believe he was on that day. Think about this. If you're on that jury, how could that take more than like an hour to say, we saw what we saw, we heard what we heard, he did the paperwork, we've got the witnesses, 3 charges, bang, bang, bang. I mean, this thing shouldn't go, unless they want to get a free lunch, this shouldn't go past lunchtime today. But remember, this is Biden. This isn't Trump. And no matter whether you want to believe it or not, we live in a country that clearly has a 2-tier system of justice, that it depends on who you are, not what you did. That Trump case was so bogus, just terrible. Now, keep in mind, I still want to believe in our system, and so I keep hope that the appellate remedy will prevail, even if it doesn't happen at the New York State level. I mean, don't be surprised. The New York State appellate court may uphold Merchan, but it will be overturned. The first objective court that looks at it, I guarantee you it will be overturned. I heard someone trying to explain that even when something is political and it shouldn't have been brought forward, and it just kept explaining why it should never have happened at all, but then they say it gets legitimacy because a jury heard the case and convicted. No. Sorry. Not for sale here. Not buying that in the slightest least. Dateline, Lafayette Park. Nasty, foul, un-American, creepy, pro-Hamas protesters, which I would call pro-Hamas criminals, assaulted police officers, vandalized monuments. The Biden government, the FBI, all knew for weeks in advance that it was going to happen. They did not have proper police there. You had that one person that's on camera getting bottles thrown at him. No respect. And by the way, they know they're not getting arrested. Why don't we have people looking up bank accounts and license plate numbers and January 6th, 2021 type investigative efforts? Do you see the difference? When you are the pro-Hamas Democrat wing of their party, you get to do this with impunity. I submit to you that was worse or as bad as January 6th. Nothing, though. Nobody's getting arrested. Trump signed an executive order, number 13933, and in Section 2A, under the policy of the executive order, made it very clear that that activity at Lafayette Park was completely criminal. But the left are what we're going to call in this program protesters with privileges. They know they can do anything. They know they can say anything. They can commit any crime. And they have utter confidence that our corrupt system will protect them. I heard them. I heard the different people that should have been doing their job saying that they're entitled to protest. you're entitled to protest, but you're not entitled to deface and paint and destroy federal property and assault police officers and other crimes. That's not something you're entitled to. And then, unless, of course, you're on the left. If you're on the left, no consequences, no arrests. It can't happen, and it won't happen. I'll tell you what I do love, though. I forget which Republican said it, but they said, if you won't do your job now, we will after January. I love that. We need more people to be saying that. I'm a big believer that when you make something inevitable, you can make it happen. Yeah, that's how it's going to be for right now, but don't worry, right after January, that won't be allowed anymore. This will be taken care of. When we come back, Nancy Pelosi. I haven't spoken about her in a long time. I will next.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
Thank you. It's Harry Hurley at 30 minutes past the hour. I have 3 stories that you can follow on our WPG Talk Radio 95.5 app. The Atlantic City Police release body-worn camera footage. Great idea. Check it out. We've got the footage. 8 females, 4 adults, 4 children arrested in Atlantic City for assaulting police officers. And we give you the first sneak peek at Atlantic City Restaurant Week 2024.
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. Yesterday was such a nice weather day. Let's do it again today. With one minor addition, the chance of a pop-up shower this afternoon. Otherwise, partly to mostly cloudy skies and still comfortable, high of 74. A few clouds tonight, low of 60. Tomorrow looks good, partly sunny, dry, seasonably warm, high 79. Heating up to 84 on Thursday with a mix of sun and clouds. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today. Here is an important safety.
Starting your day the right way with Hurley in the morning on South Jersey's talk station, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. Starting your day the right way with Hurley in the morning.
We need to just listen to the facts.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Here comes some powerful facts coming right at you. It was a good intro based on exactly where we are in the program. It's 35 minutes past the hour. I am Hurley in the morning. We do what no one else does in the history of this market, which I'm not complaining about. I am celebrating that fact. I love that. I've called it our own HOV lane. Have you ever been on a highway and wish that you qualified? Sometimes now it's 3 persons in the car or whatever you need. In order to, I look at it and I said, oh my God, I want to be in that lane. What do I got to do to earn that? Well, this is your HOV lane right here. We talk about an expression that I've made famous, and that is the truth becoming self-evident. And that it is sometimes it's always 4 stages, and they can be very quick. You could have 4 stages happen in 5 minutes, or you could have 4 stages that take decades to take effect. This has taken roughly 3.5 years, a little more than 3.5 years. Actually, almost to the day, 3.5 years. June 6th would be exactly 3.5 years. So we're there. T minus 3.5 years plus 4 days, 5 days. Nancy Pelosi, on her daughter Alexandria Pelosi's own video, confessed. And she confessed, always remember, people tell the truth first, then they lie later as time goes on. You know, get stopped by a police. Oh, I did it. Oh my God, I'm sorry. They tell you tell the truth first, then come the lies. Nancy Pelosi admitted that it was her responsibility she should have had the police there. See, they knew, just like the Biden government knew and the FBI, they knew that for weeks these pro-Hamas scumbags were going to be protesting. They did nothing about it on purpose. Nancy Pelosi knew there would be protests on January 6th. D.C. Mayor Bowser, Nancy Pelosi, anybody who had the authority to have the Capitol Police there purposely did not, in any numbers to speak of. Nancy Pelosi on video admits it all. Now, of course, what the Democrats do, and they're remarkable like this, I got to tell you, I don't give credit for this kind of behavior. I could never do it. But they do it with ease. You show them facts, and then they will say that's not true. There are no facts. They will say you took it out of context. What do you mean? I took what out of context? You saying that's your fault? How did I take that out of context? Lady. Senile lady. You said it's your fault. How did I take that out of context? But this is what they say. Barry Loudermilk, who is a congressman, said, quote, Pelosi's J6 Select Committee spent taxpayers' money chasing false political narratives and using Hollywood producers for their, quote, investigation, end quote. Her admission of responsibility directly contradicts their own narrative. Now, remember, as soon as they lost power, what did they do? They destroyed evidence. I really wish, but see, they had all the power, though. That's the problem. If there had been a Republican president and an attorney general that's not corrupt, then they could have moved in and made sure that evidence was not destroyed. What evidence was destroyed? It must have been absolutely over the top type stuff, or they wouldn't have destroyed it. So think about that. And again, after January 20th, people can now be criminally prosecuted that destroyed that evidence. Jim Jordan and others said, do not destroy anything. We want everything left untouched. Because remember, all Democrats did with their friends in the Democrat media was show truncated clips. They never showed the part of the tape with President Trump saying that you're going to be going to the Capitol, or if you go to the Capitol, go peacefully. That is so exculpatory, where they try to blame him and accuse him of being an insurrectionist. By definition, he's just the opposite. But they never played that. And slimeballs like Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger sat there and let that kangaroo court operate so that the media could say it's a bipartisan select committee. No, it wasn't. How do you say that? How do you lie like that? So, Alexandria Pelosi, thank you for getting the confession of your mom. You've done the country a great service.
You're waking up with Hurley in the morning.
Makes me think about things a little bit differently.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. You're waking up with Hurley in the morning on South Jersey's talk station, WPG Talk Radio 95.5, and the WPG Talk Radio app. You're waking up with Hurley in the morning.
Egg Harbor Township, Ocean City,
Brigantine,
Mays Landing.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
Thank you. It is 46 minutes past the hour. Kirk Conover joining us in about 20 minutes. Chuck Malamut in the 8 o'clock hour, Dr. Bob Zlotnick today in the 9 o'clock hour, so very jam-packed. This portion of Hurley in the Morning brought to us in part by Congress Hall in Cool Cape May, America's oldest seaside resort since 1816. Great time right before the busy summer season launches, and then we don't look back until Labor Day. Go online, caperesorts.com/Congress Hall, and you can reserve right online. You'll love it there. It's been restored perfectly by Curtis Bashaw. Great dining, Blue Pig Tavern. You have the boiler room downstairs. If you want to get out, you can walk basically right across the street. I would set it up in advance, but to the Ebbett Room, located inside the Virginia, and have an amazing meal at one of the finest restaurants in the country. Congress Hall, since 1816, America's oldest seaside resort. Tell them Hurley in the Morning sent you to Congress Hall. Well, even though we have the convicted felon, convicted of, they tell you all the time, 34 felonies, even though that's a bunch of poppycock. Here we go. Joe Biden has the lowest. Now, keep in mind, this is the poll of polls. This is the cum of all of the polls. Has him at, what's a good description? I'll say dismal. A dismal 37.4% approval. Do you know how hard it is to be at 37.4%? I remember how the Democrat media, if Trump was at like 46 or 47%, historically low, and just would trash 46 or 47%. Well, what's 37%? Not very good, is it? And Biden just getting hammered over how his White House has handled Israel and Hamas. I remember back at the time of the debacle in Afghanistan, and Biden's poll numbers plummeted because really it was extremely embarrassing. 13 Americans killed that should have never died. Biden orders got them killed. They could have taken these people out. Biden wouldn't let them. The same guy that didn't want us to go get Osama bin Laden, Joe Biden. Everybody wanted to go. Biden said no. Fortunately, he had no power, but he did say no. Pretty amazing, isn't it? But that showed the American people, oh my gosh, a child would have said, we keep the military there, we get our people out first, we get all those billions of dollars of weapons and equipment and all of that, vehicles and aircrafts, we get all that out of there second. But what did Biden do? He pulled the military out first, left Americans there, people falling off of planes, our 13 service members dying, slaughtered. And Biden said, I won't let any American stay there that doesn't want to stay there. You think there were Americans that said, oh, no, I don't want to come home. This is where I want to be. I want to be under the Taliban. And they're still there. This Joe Biden literally lies about everything. Finally, though, the New York Times did a piece on this. You can tell they want him. They're trying to push him out. I told you at some point all this would matter. I just couldn't tell you when. But they are trying to push Joe Biden out. There's no doubt about it. They're showing him freeze like he did yesterday. They're reporting on these crazy things like having an uncle that got eaten by cannibals and driving an 18-wheeler truck, and that his first meeting of his life was when he was a teenager at the NAACP. None of this is true. That he was civil rights in his teens, not true. I mean, I could go on and on and on. One lie, one tall tale after another. The difference now, though, is it's being reported about. See, here's the deal, and you always have to accept your own limitations. If I say it, I'm not going to say it doesn't matter at all. But there is such a difference between me saying it, or Brian Kilmeade saying it, or Sean Hannity saying it, or Glenn Beck. I mean, you get the point. On and on. Mike Gallagher, I could keep naming names. Jeff Katz. Big difference between us saying it, Laura Ingraham, Jesse Waters. I'll stop. But a big difference between us saying it and the Democrat media saying it. When the Wall Street Journal came out with a crushing piece, and the White House knew it was big-time damage, they immediately said it's a hit piece, and they tried to make it political. No, it wasn't a hit piece. They interviewed 45 people, Democrats, Republicans, you name it. You know what the White House did? These are really just slimy, smarmy. I don't know if I've ever used that word in my broadcasting career, smarmy. They are just the lowest of the low, this Biden government. You know, Joe Biden, and he got credit for so long for being like a good guy and this and that, all these good things. He is a scumbag. He's not a good guy at all. Go read. It's published. Go read what his daughter said about him. Go read it. Tara Reid left America and lives in Russia because of Joe Biden and her fear that she was going to be targeted. This is not a good person. These people are vicious. They are vicious like nothing we've ever had in powerful positions like this. But you now have. Oh, let me finish my thought on why I brought up these vicious Bidenistas. They went to the Democrats that were quoted, and they put pressure on them to give another quote. They wanted them to reach out to the Wall Street Journal and say, well, you quoted me here, but I'd like you to quote me on this. And they wanted them to basically undo what they had done. These are really bad people. You hear Trump say that all the time, that these are, quote, really bad people, unquote. And I've said the same thing, independent. They're the worst. So please join with me. I haven't had much pushback on this. I thought when I made my Hurley doctrine a couple weeks ago or whenever it was that I was going to get a lot of pushback. But honestly, I've had a lot of agreement with it. And if there's been disagreement, people have just given me a pass and didn't really bring it to my attention. I really haven't had anyone say, how can you say that? It's totally wrong, what you're saying. I really expected it when I came out and said that I want Hunter Biden to be acquitted. And it would, look, we all look at things and we come up with our own thoughts or views about a certain situation. It struck me so hard, right between the eyes, that a not guilty verdict, it's wrong. He is guilty. The evidence is overwhelming, compelling, and irrefuted. And I don't usually want the wrong thing to be done, but it would be a spectacular contrast to have Hunter Biden not guilty and President Trump guilty. Then you take all the media coverage, how the whole media, including Democrats, said this is a really bad case. Nobody's ever been charged with this before. So you know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about President Trump. And then boom, guilty. Hunter Biden, on the other hand, black and white, day and night, 3 federal charges, unambiguous, an avalanche of evidence. Wouldn't it be spectacular? Trump guilty, Biden not guilty. You couldn't pay for what that would do for President Trump to further discount his conviction, which is going to be overturned anyhow. Now, let me paint the other side of this mosaic. It's like one of those things, you look at it one way, oh, look at that. Then you turn it around, oh, I mean, it looks totally different. Now let's say he's guilty today, and I think it's going to be today. If he's guilty, I'm the one that told you how fast they were going to be coming out with Trump, the convicted felon. Unite Here Local 54, they didn't like President Trump's doctrine that he's going to make all the tip earners not have to pay taxes on their tips. They come out and say it's a terrible idea from a convicted felon. Okay, the whole thing was done so they can say that about him. If you convict Hunter Biden, then these jackals, and they'll do it in the Democrat media and elsewhere, even Biden, Joe, will be able to say how because he knows he's pardoning or commuting his son's sentence. Just fill in the date. They get to say there's not a two-tier system of justice. President Trump was charged and convicted, and the president's son was federally charged and convicted. Our system works. I want to throw up in my mouth when I'm saying this, but I'm telling you, bank on it. That's what's going to happen. Kirk.
From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame, you're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
Hey, thank you. Welcome back. It's 6 minutes past the hour. I will do this at least once per program in the run-up to the 17th annual Hurley in the Morning Charity Golf Open. As of right now, the forecast for Thursday, June 20th. Hold on a second. Had it right in front of me, and for some reason, there we go. It disappeared on me. Thursday, June 20th. Partly sunny, high 86. I'll tell you, about 2 days before the tournament, the high is 77, and now it's 78. It went up a degree. I checked it this morning. God, look at the clock. 4 hours ago, I checked it. And it's only 7:06. And I checked it 4 hours ago. There's something sick about that. I feel like Donald Trump with that. There's something sick about that. Let's see. Yeah, on the 16th, 78 is the high. That would be perfect. 2% chance of rain. Here's where we stand at the moment. Still too far out to worry. And 86, remember, 86 is the high. A good portion, if we went by the hour, a good portion of our event will be below that. I would even say at 9 o'clock in the morning, we'll likely be in the 70s. It'll be beautiful. And the winds out of the south at 10 miles an hour, not bad. Not bad at all. I would take that. No rain in the forecast right now. Remember, you have to be at 30% or more for rain to be in the forecast. There is a 20% chance of rain, so we'll keep an eye on that. There is, Dan Zarrow told you about the possibility of some rain later today. It's about a 54% chance that we would get scattered thunderstorms developing later this afternoon. Again, that kind of thing. You want to rain like 5 o'clock on? Good. We'll be gone. I'd just like everybody to be able to play, have a nice lunch, get in their car, get home, and then, if there's going to be rain, let it happen like that. There is very little rain over the next 12 days. Maybe tonight, and about a 33% chance on June 14th. There's no other rain in the forecast between now and June, let me see, and June 22nd. It's 39% there, and it's way too early for it to mean anything, but June 23rd and then June 25th. So right now, Margie just texted me something very good. Woo-hoo. Got to keep it a secret. Very good. All right, let's welcome Kirk Conover to the program. Hello, Kirk. You will be one of our fabulous foursomes, one of 31. I'm very, very excited, Kirk. We now have, out of 124 golfers, I now have, I think it's 119 of the names of our golfers. I feel good about that.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it. It's always a great time. And, that weather forecast, last June was very rainy, except the day of your tournament.
Yeah. And the next day, Friday, which forever prior to that would have been the day, was no go. So, I mean, Kirk, could it happen for a 17th consecutive year? Is it possible? Could it happen? Is it going to happen?
I think so.
How does it?
I think so.
I'm telling you, I need somebody to put that through some kind of mathematical probability equation, and I would have to think the odds. We can say it's 16. Hasn't happened yet for the 17th, but the odds of 16 straight years. And I remember saying, wouldn't it be amazing? We moved it to Thursday because we had to. What if Thursday was beautiful and Friday was some torrential thing, and then that's exactly what happened?
Yep.
It didn't just rain on that Friday, the day after our event. It was horrific. I mean, it was a deluge of rain. All right, let me go to the Hurley Doctrine, because you and I have not had the chance to ask you, and you split decisions are welcome. You don't have to try to make me look good or anything like that. I'm rooting. Now, look, in my heart and everything that's pure and right and good and the way that it should be, Hunter Biden should be convicted, and that should be the way that it is, because he's guilty. But we have an election in less than 5 months that I think is for the soul of our country, and if we still even have a country. So I've got to be strategic for the next 4.5, 5 months. I don't have the liberty of being absolutely 100% pure and totally principled when it comes to these jackals that we're running against. So I'm going full-blown Machiavelli here. I want Hunter to be acquitted. Now, I know that sounds terrible to say that based on the fact that what they did to Trump and that he is so incredibly guilty. But that's my story, Kirk. That's my doctrine. Do you agree or do you disagree?
I sort of disagree, but in the sense that if he is acquitted, it will be the best illustration of the two-tier justice system that the Democrats have foisted upon us.
Right. So then tell me, why do you sort of disagree then? Because that's the whole point. I disagree with me too, but I want it to go down this way because if it doesn't, then they get to say how fair the system is. It worked in New York City. It worked in Delaware. And they get away with a fast one here. We get our innocent man lumped in with the guilty guy, and I think that would not play well. I think that would actually support. And then when they start polling, do you agree with Trump being convicted and with Hunter Biden being convicted? Everybody's that Trump's number that's at like 50% now. If Hunter Biden is convicted, Trump's number will go up. Do you see where I'm going with this?
Yes, I do. It's totally understandable. And I think, though, I just keep looking at what they're presenting, and I don't know how they cannot find them guilty.
Well, my friend, it's called jury nullification. It's called we stared at the first lady in the front row for day after day after day after day, and then the other scores of Bidens in the courtroom, and the fact that there's about a 60% Biden approval rating in the state of Delaware to begin with, is for all those reasons. He's guilty. He's guilty as hell. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, and that's why it's hard for me to get by it. I mean, the defense is putting up this, he didn't know he was an addict. Well, think about all the DUI pullovers. I didn't know I was drunk. I didn't know I was drinking.
I didn't know I robbed the bank. I didn't know I committed murder. No, I get it. And I mentioned in my monologue Newsweek article that I don't have it in front of me now, but it basically said that the Biden ridiculous defense just may work. I mean, just root for him.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I don't want him to be found not guilty because it's not right. For Trump to be found guilty and for Hunter Biden to be found not guilty is a travesty. It's terrible. But politically, it's extremely helpful.
And there's a couple other things I want to throw in here. I just read an article that our progressive New Jersey Attorney General is now looking into the liquor licenses of Trump's golf courses.
Oh, no, we knew this was coming. I'm on this too, Kirk, and I'm writing an article about it that's about halfway done, actually, that I started this morning. There's no doubt about it. ABC is all over this. I think they're going to take his liquor licenses away. This is about crushing Trump for the rest of his life anywhere that you can. So they make a fake felon out of him, and then they say, hey, you're a felon now, so you can't have liquor licenses. I mean, it's unbelievable. And, there's a whole group that they never sleep. They're trying to get him charged criminally in Scotland. This is go after Trump everywhere you can, Kirk Conover.
Yep, and our governor is standing by and letting it happen. He could stop it, I'm sure. And Governor Murphy is just trying to be Mr. Progressive, and it makes me sick. I sent you an article yesterday about the, he's proclaiming that offshore wind is back on track. I mean, he's just, I don't know. I can't wait for him to go. But
well, he will go, and not much more than a year from now, year and 4 months, year and 5 months, something like that.
Yeah, how much damage can he do in the meantime? I mean, he may be a nice person, a good man individually, but his policies and his beliefs are just ruinous for New Jersey. The other thing I wanted to throw in was Brian Kilmeade had a fellow on named Ian Pryor.
Oh, yeah.
High-powered attorney. And I think he's got standing to appear in front of the U.S. Supreme Court. And Brian immediately asked him, what was Trump convicted of? And he goes, I don't know. Now, this is a guy that, obviously has a brilliant legal mind and knows what's going on, and his answer was, I don't know what he was convicted of.
Well, Kirk, Alvin Bragg doesn't know, because he said when he did his press conference minutes after, 45 minutes or whatever it was after the jury verdict, he said that President Trump was convicted by a jury of his peers of falsifying business records and election interference. He wasn't charged with election interference. Nobody knows that was the bootstrapped federal thing. That's why this conviction, hold on, Kirk, we're going to go to break. That's why the conviction will not stand, because there's nothing there. Nothing about it was legal in the first place. So Ian Pryor doesn't know. Kirk Conover doesn't know. I don't know. Nobody knows. Alvin Bragg doesn't know. And they didn't even tell Trump. He went through an entire trial for what could represent his freedom hanging in the balance, and he was never told what he was charged with. The prosecution in their closing summation said some things, but there were never, whatever they call these different things, the charge documents, and in the opening comments or in the actual charges, it was never offered. I don't think there's ever been anything like it in American history where someone has been tried and convicted and no one knows what he's been convicted of. They were just happy to convict him. That was the goal. We'll be back.
Hurley in the morning.
Harry Hurley is the only person on the radio who isn't afraid to speak the truth about what's really happening in Atlantic City.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Waking up on the right side. This is the Sean Hannity Morning Minute.
These are not good times, by the way, for the people in this country. Look at this headline on Fox Business today. Nearly 2/3 of middle-class Americans say they're struggling financially, quote, gasping for air. Americans feeling pessimistic about their finances amid ongoing inflation. Biden administration now is cementing in their latest rule to force electric vehicles, which cost a fortune more, that Americans don't want into your driveway because they locked in a weakened fuel economy standard on Friday. Experts are still describing the final version of this as stringent, designed specifically to force electric vehicles on Americans who don't want them.
From coast to coast, from sea to shining sea, it's the Sean Hannity Show.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle, unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. And right now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. With ZipRecruiter, one click sends your job to hundreds of top job sites. But more than that, ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies the candidates with the skills you need, sends you a list of great matches to review, then actively invites them to apply for your job. And the results speak for themselves. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's right, the first day. Now you can focus on your business and let ZipRecruiter do the work finding the best people for you. See for yourself. Experience the ease, efficiency, and power of ZipRecruiter for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Listen at home or in the office on your smart speaker. Just say, play WPG. Hurley in the morning.
They always have great conversation.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Thank you. Welcome back. It's 25 minutes past the hour. Kirk Conover, yours truly, Hurley in the morning, and a good friend and a great guest listener, Keith, has a question for the panel. Keith, you're on the air. Go.
Hi. Is Shaker Rally going to fund schools through instead of property taxes, sales tax?
Great question. Stay with us in case you have a follow-up, Keith. Kirk has direct experience with this because in South Carolina, that's exactly how they fund it. It is a horrible, it's a tragedy, actually, that the state of New Jersey decided to fund education off of the backs of the property taxpayers. It's just the wrong way to go. It's a shame words have been ruined, but it used to be said a more progressive way to do it would be to fund it with the sales tax. But the problem in New Jersey is they've abused the sales tax. If we had a lower sales tax and say you could throw 1% on top of the sales tax, and then that would mean even people that are driving through your state, vacationing in your state, I mean, you would be funded, broadly. And personally speaking, although could you get destroyed in a campaign if you said, hey, I want to raise the sales tax. Hey, vote for me. I want to raise the sales tax 1%, but you won't have that property tax burden anymore if it was pure and if it was unambiguous. I'd like to give that a run. What do you think about that, Kirk?
Well, I saw it firsthand. It was a referendum on the ballot. It wasn't the governor doing it. They put it on the ballot as a ballot question. And their sales tax at the time was 3%. And the question was, would you support 1% increase if the funds go to local schools? And it passed overwhelmingly. Our annual sales tax property tax went from $6,000 to $3,000 overnight.
See, I love it. Now, what would that mean? Like in New Jersey, Kirk, the sales tax is 6.625%. So if and I don't know if 1% would fund 800 school districts. But let's just say it did. What do you think? We don't have a calculator here, and I don't in my own head, I don't have the numbers to know if it's the right thing to do. But if you said we'll pull off the property tax for local purpose tax, which in Egg Harbor Township is 66 point some odd % of the local purpose tax. Everywhere it's over 50%, and in most it's over 60%. So if you could take away 60% of your local purpose tax, and instead now everything you buy that has New Jersey sales tax would be 7.625%. What does your gut tell you, Kirk? Is that a good trade? Kirk first, Keith, and then you. Kirk?
Well, I think the sales tax in New Jersey is too high already. So
it might be a loser for us.
It might be in the sense that you have to be competitive with the states around you when it comes to the sales tax. So I would suggest maybe dedicating 1% of the existing sales tax and see. That's the way I would approach it.
Say that again.
I would dedicate 1% of the existing sales tax rate to local education.
Well, I'd be okay with that. I'd be okay with that, but you know how that'd be like a lead balloon, because where's all that other stuff that's being funded by the current sales tax?
Oh yeah, you'd have to control spending.
Yeah,
you're right.
Keith, you got anything else on that?
Well, I wouldn't want to be part of the mass exodus to Florida because I'm a Jersey boy, and I'd pay 10% sales tax if everybody got it.
In other words, to remove the property tax reliance on the school purpose, you would prefer a higher sales tax.
Yeah, that way everybody gets it, Howard. Yeah,
I mean, it's true. Yeah. The problem with New Jersey, though, they're sneaky and they're dirty, and we'd wind up with a 7.625 or 8%, whatever it would be. And keep in mind, what that would then do is, with impunity, they would build it in that as quote-unquote thorough and efficient education goes forward to subsequent years with collective bargaining agreement contracts and then the costs of utilities and operating expenses and everything going up, would they have the ability to continue to raise like what Chris Christie did to us? That blowhard with the gas tax. Boy, I'll tell you, I had to cross the Rubicon on that because they let that now that they can basically raise, we're short revenue. We raise the gas tax. So that's the other thing you got to watch out in New Jersey. You'd have to cap it because if you didn't, see right now, your school purpose tax goes up basically relative to the school budget that's approved by the board unless the state cuts that budget. Because everybody votes yes for the school budget. It never fails. And when I say it never fails, the question never fails. So in New Jersey, it's really tricky to do what works elsewhere in a crooked state like this is very challenging. Keith, I will see you on the links in the very near future, 9 days from now. Got to run to the break. We're going to let the citizen, Seth Grossman, join the program next with Kirk Conover. Don't go away. It is Hurley in the Morning. Somehow, I don't think Seth is going to be happy about the sales tax for school purpose tax, but I'm not sure. And I'm going to do the Johnny Carson rule. We're not going to talk about it until we talk about it. If what is it called? If, ands, or buts. If we were at 6.625 and if you were doing it from the beginning, it shouldn't be on the property tax. That is not the right way to fund public education. The problem is, I think it would really open up government to be able to but they're doing it anyhow. Your property taxes keep going up. This will be interesting. We'll see what Seth says about this next. I will tell you, and I've studied the issue very hard, there are states that have like 1% on the sales tax. It pays for public education. It works very well. They're able to keep their property taxes low. In theory, it is a potentially beautiful thing.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
33 minutes past the hour with Kirk, and in a few minutes with Seth. I'm Harry. 3 stories that you can follow on the WPG Talk Radio 95.5 app. We have it, and you can see it now. Atlantic City Police, they've released body-worn camera footage. I think this ought to be done more, unedited, of course. 8 females were arrested, 4 adults, 4 juveniles in Atlantic City for assaulting police officers. How about that? You didn't used to see that. And a first sneak peek at Atlantic City Restaurant Week 2024.
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. We're starting the day with temperatures on either side of 60 degrees. Again, comfortable and typical for this time of year. We've had some showers scraping past South Jersey early this morning. While most of today looks high and dry, there's a reasonable chance for some pop-up shower activity this afternoon. Otherwise, partly to mostly cloudy, high 74. A few clouds tonight, low of 60. Partly sunny and dry tomorrow, high 79. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app.
You're waking up with Hurley in the Morning. WPG Talk Radio 95.5. Bible. You're waking up with Hurley in the Morning.
That's right.
I'm looking for trustworthy news.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
And that is what we do around here. This is Harry Hurley asking you to join my friends at United Methodist Communities at the Shores in Ocean City for their 13th annual Father's Day Classic Car Show. Saturday, June 15, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and on Tuesday, June 18 from 10 a.m. to 12 noon for the free memory screening event. If you're considering senior living options for yourself or a loved one, I recommend exclusively United Methodist Communities at the Shores in Ocean City, and here's why. It's fully remodeled with private apartments, 2 restaurants, a bistro, an on-site fitness center, and it's just 3 short blocks from the Ocean City Boardwalk and Beach. The Shores is proud to present insightful and fun events for our community. Don't miss the Father's Day Classic Car Show. It's great. Saturday, June 15th, 9 to 1, and the free memory screening event open to the public on Tuesday, June 18th from 10 to 12 noon. You do need to RSVP for the memory event, not for the classic car show. Call Michelle, RSVP for the memory event at 609-399-8505. That's 609-399-8505. Of course, we continue with Kirk Conover, and we're welcoming the founder and the executive director of Liberty and Prosperity, Seth Grossman, to the program. Hey, Seth.
Good morning. Well, anyone old enough to remember 1976 should understand that the only way to fairly fund public schools is the property tax. And the greatest disaster that ever happened to New Jersey was Steve Persky and Brendan Byrne and the New Jersey income tax of 1976. Because that was an experiment to do exactly what you've been talking about for the past 15 minutes. People say, oh, the property taxes in New Jersey in 1976 were so awful. So let's have a brand new state income tax. Because remember, New Jersey didn't have an income tax until 1976. And they said, let's have the state income tax pay for our public schools, and then every dollar that we collect from the state tax will go to reduce property taxes and pay for our public schools. And in fact, whenever you get a refund from the state, you'll notice your refund check says Property Tax Relief Fund.
Yeah.
So what happened when we tried that experiment? Well, there were about three unintended consequences. Well, first, the Democrats were in control, and the first thing they did is they came up with gimmicks to funnel 2/3 of that property tax relief into just 32 towns, with the so-called Abbott district for 32 predominantly black Democratic districts. And even after that, every year you hear about the school funding bill and who's getting more and who's getting less. It's always the Democratic inner city districts that get more and the suburban districts that get less, so they're forced to raise their property taxes. So it was totally unfair. The second unintended consequence was that, once it was somebody else paying for things, suddenly the teachers union began demanding more money. And by the way, the teachers union is the most powerful political force in America. You have 103,000 public school teachers. They're forced to join a union, or if you don't want to join, you have to pay 85% of the dues, and everybody hates you, but you're still paying the same amount of money. So 103,000 teachers pay about $1,000 each. That's a slush fund of $100 million a year to dominate the politics, just not of New Jersey, but throughout the country. So you created that, and nobody cared about the high salaries of the teachers, the administrators, and all the extra people got hired because, oh, don't worry, the state's paying for it, not us. And the third unintended consequence is remember, they said, well, we're in exchange for the income tax, we're only going to permit increases in the cost of living, like a 3% cap. And what you ended up doing is you made the budget process so complicated at every town that citizens had no idea who was doing what, and basically the lawyers and the experts took over, and the public completely got out of the budget process.
Well, and they're very sneaky, as you know. Look, we'll put tolls on the roads, but as soon as the roads are paid for, the tolls will come off, and you won't have to pay. And of course, very, very funny. That never happened, and they just keep going up, up, up. It's getting actually crazy. Some of these tolls. So there's always the trickery that they do. That's why I was so disappointed when the state actually voted. The vote was very close. It was nearly a 50-50 deal. People voted to raise their gas tax. I was shocked, but I guess I shouldn't be, because they didn't find out until it was too late that this wasn't just a one-time thing. Oh, we have one of the lowest gas taxes in America. So what's that in crazy people's minds? That's opportunity. That means we can raise it, because why can't it just stay low? This is so low. That's why I'm telling you, the first time a Democrat becomes county executive, and if we have a Democrat board of freeholders, commissioners, can you imagine with that debt to equity ratio that we have, like 95 or more percent of the borrowing is available, they're going to go bananas. So that's why I hesitated now that we are already up and running, because all that would do is give them license to just then have the ability to raise the sales tax whenever they want. Kirk?
Yeah, I agree with Seth. I mean, the whole political culture of New Jersey makes anything you do with taxation fraught with danger.
Yeah.
And, it works in South Carolina because they have a different culture down there.
When you had a low and no at one point sales tax. So if you started at 0 and you said that 1% could fund all public education in South Carolina, and your property taxes will go from $6,000 to $3,000, Seth, would you sign on to that?
Absolutely not, because look at how we got a sales tax in the first place. New Jersey never had a sales tax, 0 sales tax, till 1966.
Right.
0 income tax till 1976. 0 lottery. All these gimmicks to raise the taxes to give us lower property taxes. Why didn't it work? Because the biggest weakness of American political culture now is voters who have the ability to say, I want this, I want that, I want the other thing, but I want somebody else to pay for it.
But the problem is, Seth, when you have, I'm not disputing, I think you're correct, but it makes it more interesting if we have a split decision. So I'm going to continue to have a split decision, even though I more agree with you than I don't agree with you. Funding education through property taxes, people think, well, it's very democratic because you can vote your school budget down. However, if you vote the school budget down, the Department of Education reinstates everything that's thorough and efficient education anyhow. So you really have no power to vote your budget down, and then the property taxes keep going up, up, up. This is not a great thing either, Seth.
And you know what else is a bad thing? We used to have affordable taxes, the best schools, the best highways, the best place to do business here in New Jersey, when everybody paid taxes equally. The beginning and the end of New Jersey, by the way, was when we started to give special breaks for senior citizens, special breaks for veterans, special breaks of public housing, exempt from taxes, the so-called payments in lieu of taxes. Once you had the idea that you don't have to, you could vote for more stuff for yourself and have somebody else to pay for it, that really undermined the whole concept of liberty and equal justice under the law. And what you're going to get a financial collapse at every level of government. So one of the purposes of Liberty and Prosperity .com is to warn you, this is the road we're going down. And it seems like the more of this drug that we keep taking, that let somebody else pay for what I want from government.
Well, as you know, Seth, and I know that Kirk knows this all too well, Wharton School degree and all, is that once, and this is well documented from a long time ago, and you both know this, saying once people find that they can vote the Treasury, that becomes the end of that particular nation or whatever the entity is that operates under that philosophy. And that's where we are now.
And by the way, just one thing that made it even worse, people said, oh, yeah, and we don't even want the state or local taxes paying for it. So let's vote for Jimmy Carter and have a federal Department of Education. So the federal government will also pay for our public schools. And look where that got us.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, Seth, I got to run to break, but very value added. I really enjoyed your participation, and we'll talk again. Have a great day. And Kirk, we'll be right back. Don't go away. One more power segment with Kirk straight ahead.
In a world full of fake news, AI, and unverified information on social media, where can you get the latest, most accurate South Jersey news? WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app. Don't wait for the newspaper to come in the mail. The WPG Talk Radio app is updated around the clock from New Jersey's largest radio news team. Accurate, dependable, reliable. When you need to know, it's WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app. WPG Talk Radio 95.5. For complete contest rules, visit WPGTalkradio.com. You're waking up with Hurley in the morning.
Brigantine.
Mays Landing. EHT.
Ocean City.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. South Jersey's talk station.
Thank you. Welcome back. 53 minutes past the hour. Chuck Malamut joining us in about 13 minutes. Kirk, I was looking. I don't have a full storyline here, but I'm going to do it in the near future. But I did look at some, we'll call them demarcation lines. In 2006, July 15, 2006, the tax rate, sales tax in New Jersey was 7%. It was also 7% until December 31st of 2016. So for that decade, it was 7%. It went down. This is almost like anathema to New Jersey. It went down to 6.625. So you don't see that much in New Jersey, Kirk.
No, it's illustrative of, the fact that we do have a convoluted tax system and
on purpose.
Yeah, and, the problem with any of it is in this Democrat spend, big government political culture we have is wherever you get new revenue from, it frees up pressure for other spending programs, so they just spend it somewhere else.
And it went from 0% forever in 1966 to 3%, and then up, and then slightly down ever since.
Yeah. Well, the federal income tax started out at 1%. Look where it is now, right? So I remember reading a little book probably 30 years ago, written by a judge, and it said, you build them, we fill them. And the fact that you build prisons, we fill them up. Doesn't matter how many cells you build, we're going to fill them up. And that's the way the political attitude is in Trenton.
By the way, on May 15th of this year, Senator Sarlo suggested raising the sales tax from 6.625% to 7%, and he goes on to some gobbledygook about it would be more stable and this and that. I mean, give me a break. Yeah, that's stable.
Yeah,
that should be considered unstable, unbalanced thinking.
And the biggest problem is the fact that there's no budget discipline at the federal or state level, and the attitude is, you give us money and we're going to figure out how to spend it. I remember I used to do a little thing on Comcast when I was in the assembly, and they labeled it Watchdog on Waste. And I would find these spending things in the budget that were insane. They're spending $25,000 to teach Andean art to inner city youth.
Well, think about this. If we went to the sales tax and say, and I don't think this would cover it, but in year one, if you said 1% would cover all public education dollars in the state of New Jersey, but then as you go on, it wouldn't cover it because of the reasons we talked about earlier in the program, because costs go up and so on, collective bargaining agreements and operating expenses and so on. So we would constantly be raising the sales tax, would have to go from 6.625 to 6.725, and it would just keep going. But if you keep it at the local level, you can at least hold your local officials accountable if they raise your local tax. And as you know, that's a tough thing because they get hit, every which way. But at least there would still be some local accountability where you could say, hey, look, this tax increase is unacceptable, so we have to fire you now. You can't fire the sales tax. So there's a lot to be said for this conversation, Kirk.
Yeah. Well, mechanically, the way it works in South Carolina, and I haven't done a deep dive on it, but they determine, based on the number of school children, the amount of money that each district is going to get. Now, each district is still responsible for paying for the buildings and the maintenance of the hard costs.
So they float bonds and things like that?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So there's still a portion of the local property tax that pays for, hard costs, so to speak. The soft costs, basically there's a formula. They say you have so many school children, this is what you get, and you got to live within this amount of money we're sending you, period.
Got it.
There's no discretion. Oh, we got all this money, now we can spend more. No, that's not the way it works. This
Kirk,
is what you get, and this is what you have to spend.
Kirk, final
period.
20 seconds.
Well, getting back to the national economy, which GDP revised down again, 1.3, and that's basically stagflation. We're living under Biden.
Now, is GDP actually coming out tomorrow? I think there's a new number coming out tomorrow at at 8:30, I think.
Well, we'll see.
Right.
I just know that we're now falling into the no-growth European-style economy.
Oh, the otherwise known as the new normal. Kirk, have a great day.
Today.
From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame, you're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
Thank you. Welcome. Chuck Malamud is here, and this program is presented and sponsored by Chuck Malamud. For 32 years, this July 1st, a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. The information, views, and opinions expressed on this broadcast are those of Chuck Malamud and do not necessarily reflect those of Morgan Stanley or its affiliates. They are current as of the date of this broadcast and are subject to change without notice. Neither the information provided nor any opinion expressed herein constitutes a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. This presentation is for informational purposes only. Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, member SIPC. Top of the morning, Mr. Chuck Malamud. Welcome.
Good morning, Harry. How are you today?
Excellent. Great to see you.
Did you have a good weekend?
Really good. Busy because we were in Long Island for over 2 days and got back and had a lot to take care of. Good weekend. A lot going on.
Should have gone to the Yankees games.
They were there, and we actually, I can't say we talked about it at length, but I did say to Margie, I said, we could just stay. But I guess we could have picked up a couple of tickets. I saw some open seats. It was basically filled, but probably could have got in.
Yes, Harry. We're in the middle of the summer. There's no doubt about it. Look, obviously, great weekend.
I like the way you called it the middle of the summer. It's not even officially summer.
No, we're in the middle of the summer.
Okay, I believe you. But by the calendar, it's not even summer yet.
Can it be? Is it time for the playoffs yet, or what?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Now I got it. It isn't, but there are teams that have pretty much planted their flag that they're going to be in the playoffs, and two teams that will be in the playoffs are the Dodgers and the Yankees.
Look, you've been a baseball follower for years. It just seems like
my whole life.
This year, maybe reading too much into it, there's some really, really good teams, and there are just some really, really awful teams. Awful to the extent that they shouldn't be playing Major League Baseball.
Except every once in a while, though. They're not 0-50. They do win.
They do.
So some of the teams that have 45 and nearly 50 wins, like the Dodgers and the Yankees, I think the Yankees are right now 47-21, something like that. The best record in baseball, tied with the Phillies. It's like a percentage point between the two. The Yankees have the most wins in all of baseball, both leagues. But on occasion, those teams that are lowly wind up winning.
It happens,
which is
crushing.
I
guess that's why you play the game.
Yeah, when a first place team goes somewhere that they should sweep and they get swept, it happens.
All right, so? Harry, let's pivot here and talk a little bit about the markets, because even though its earnings are pretty much done, it's a pretty big week, and we'll get into that in a minute. But if we look at last week, for the most part, equities did advance. The S&P was up about 1.4%. The S&P and the NASDAQ did hit all-time new highs. Breadth, I think there's something we need to be careful of here, Harry. Breadth was narrow. As we look across, if we look at the equal weighted S&P, meaning like every company has the same percentage allocation to make the average. As it turns out, that equal weight S&P was actually down for the week. So that's something you have to, I think, be made aware of. Best performing sectors for the week: technology, healthcare. The laggards were utilities and energy, and that was for the week. So if we take a look at where we are year to date, S&P up 12.8%. This is close of business Friday. The Dow up about 3.9%. The NASDAQ up 14.5%. International stocks up about 8%. Best performing sectors, and again, pretty much no change over the last month or so. Communication services, information technology, and utilities up anywhere from 11 to 23%. And on the flip side, what's not working, real estate down 4.5%. That is the only losing sector in the S&P 500 year to date. Consumer discretionary and materials second and third place, up anywhere from 2 to 5%. Now the 10-year Treasury last week was actually up 0.5%. So now year to date, Harry, down about 2.8%. So big week. We're going to talk, in a minute about CPI. We're going to talk about the Fed. So actually a really big day tomorrow. So, but before we get there, I think when you take a look at the market, I think there's 4 places we need to obviously look at. The economy, jobs, the Fed, and obviously the market. So, as I mentioned, we did hit those fresh highs last week. That on the signs of the economy and the labor market and the central bank, things seem to be normalizing. I did. I don't want to say chuckle, maybe smile is the right word, as you and Kirk were talking at the end of the discussion earlier this morning, about the new normal.
I did that.
But he jumped right on it. So he's okay with that now. I guess we can phrase the new normal, and I can.
Oh no, that was as sarcastic as anything you've ever heard. No. We don't believe in that.
So anyway, if you look at the economy, I guess the extent is, Harry, are we going to get to this soft landing? We keep hearing about it, and it's being talked about, and we'll talk about employment here in a minute, because there is, I think, you got to really, when you look at last week's numbers, you really got to look under the hood to clearly understand, where the 270,000 new jobs print came from.
I found out where it came from. Ready?
I want you to hold that.
Okay.
I want you to hold that.
Got it.
Just for a second. Now,
okay.
the ECB and the Bank of Canada last week kicked off interest rate cuts, and we have really, for the most part, been a leader in leading other countries, and right now we're not. I think more to be said about that. And, the question is, as we go forward, Harry, the summertime, things get a little quiet, and that oftentimes brings volatility.
Are things going to get quiet, though, in this hotly contested presidential election year? I think it's an anomaly to what usually would be an absolutely undeniable fact that you just shared. But I think that nothing is going to be quiet for the next 4.5 months.
There's a fair amount of exhaustion with the American people right now, and we'll get to that, during our discussion today as well. So as it turns out, I mean, you can be right from a political standpoint.
Yeah,
there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
But from our perspective, typically, things do slow down, and when you don't have that volume oftentimes, Harry, that that does in fact create more volatility than what we accustomedly get in the shoulder months, so to speak.
But 2 records were set yesterday.
Oh, they were. I mean, and look, there's no doubt about it. I mean, I think we got to look at, again, you got to look at what's driving it, and you got to look at the fact that, look, if you take out the biggest market capitalization type companies out of the indexes, then things aren't so great. And I think that's what a lot of people don't really understand right now with respect to the market. Do we have time to do labor, or you want to move on?
We'll do your next topic right after the break. Don't go away. 15 minutes past the hour with Chuck Malamut. A reminder for all of your financial planning needs. Turn to Chuck Malamut, Managing Director. He leads his team, the Malamut Group, at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office at 609-383-2010. We'll be back right after this.
Wake up weekday mornings with Hurley in the morning.
This is the stuff we need to talk about.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. You're listening to Hurley in the morning on South Jersey's talk station, WPG Talk Radio 95.5, and the WPG Talk Radio app. You're listening to Hurley in the morning.
It's a source I can trust.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
We're back 18 minutes past the hour. Hurley in the morning with Chuck Malamut, talking all about your financial matters. Chuck, next topic.
So, Harry, last Friday, I think to everyone's surprise, the employment report came out, and with
not my surprise,
with a job print of 272,000 jobs. Now, you think about it, the consensus forecast was for 180,000 jobs. Now, there were some downward revisions in the prior months, but they were pretty insignificant, we'll call it, compared to what they've been doing previously. About 15,000. There were, every revision is always a downward revision with respect to labor. Wage growth was stronger than expected. It was up 0.4% month over month, and about a little bit over 4% year over year. So income generation does remain somewhat solid. The unemployment rate did increase from 3.9 to 4%, and markets were quick to price out either one of the two forecasted U.S. Federal Reserve rate cuts anticipated before year end. So when you look at the data points, Harry, of those job prints, 3 industries, healthcare, government, and services, meaning hospitality and other like. So virtually no growth in manufacturing. So you had an answer, I think, with respect to that?
Yes, more than 100,000 of the 275,000 or whatever it is illegals that were hired.
Right. And there's a whole discussion as to how we're actually measuring and what is being counted with respect to these job increases. And you think about,
my belief is they're just making the number whatever they want it to be. I don't believe it. I don't think it's true. I think a lot of them are part-time jobs, and as I mentioned, this is confirmed. More than 100,000 went to illegals. This is just whatever they want it to be. They're just making it up so they can say there's robust job growth, blowout job growth. I don't like the way that they report.
Well, I think the JOLT survey, the Kirk and you guys oftentimes refer back to, that's really the telltale sign of what's going on. So, just earlier in the week, that report came out, and it showed the job openings fell to slightly over 8 million in April, revised down from 8.36 during the month of March.
So the government doesn't have control of that number, correct?
I don't believe they do, Harry.
You see the difference?
The April figure was the lowest since February of 2021.
I rest my
case.
case.
The quits rate, which I think is really important, that did hold steady about 2.2%. But the ratio of the number of unfilled jobs to those that are unemployed fell to 1.2, Harry. That's the lowest in nearly 3 years. So when you look at it, a smaller number of job openings signifies softening demand for labor. It's really a lot harder now to go, get a job than what we had previously lived through. So remember how we talked about... So
is this suspension of disbelief? On one hand, we're reporting blowout job numbers, but on the other, we're reporting a tightening workforce. Both can't be true, but they're getting away with both being true. The Fed is going by the real numbers, it seems, when they're comfortable that that their policies are working and that the job market is tightening. But then we get the headlines of blowout job numbers. Oh my God! Look, we thought it was going to be 180,000. It's 275,000. I mean, I'm just disgusted with this.
So here's what's happened, and please don't hold me to it, but I believe 2 out of the last 3 months, the ADP private payrolls, as is referred to, or that those numbers came in 2 out of 3 times lower than expectations.
Right.
And the months that happened, the jobs report came in higher, significantly higher than expectations.
Can you in your career ever recall a time, I have my answer, but I'll hold it. Can you recall a time where those numbers are so different on a consistent basis? They're not the same, and I know they can have variances, but I've never seen it with this divide.
I would think 1 month is sort of an aberration, which happened a couple months ago, and I think they should be fairly much in line with each other.
Yeah.
And this past, you can ask Mike and Frank, we're standing there watching the number, and you can hear it coming from the speaker that's narrating this, and you hear 2, and you're like, you want to fall over because 2, like for 200.
Yeah.
And when they come with 270.
Right. They didn't say like 201,000. It was 275,000.
Yeah. I mean, 272, Harry's big number, big number. But here's what happened. The market initially sold off. And then when they got into the report and understood the components of that number, the market finished the day in for the most part in upward territory. Maybe the Dow might have been down, but it wasn't. You know how you get those big movements previously?
Right.
Did not happen. So I think the market is kind of, I don't want to say cast that aside. The market understands that the Fed's coming maybe once, maybe twice, maybe not at all with respect to cuts this year. And when you think about it, is a 50 basis point rate cut, like if we go with 225 basis points cuts, those 50 basis points really make a difference at the end of the day.
Only to Joe Biden running for re-election. No, seriously, I'm not even being political. That's a geopolitical comment. It matters to Joe Biden tremendously. Do you remember, and this is, again, geopolitical, not political. Do you remember when Barack Obama was president and unemployment was extremely high? And I remember announcing on your show, and I don't know if their goal was to get...
Well, that's when I got accused for the new normal.
Right, but they said he's got to get it under, if it was 7 or whatever it was, and they got it to 6.9 or 7.9, whatever the number was that got it below. They got it below. They made it happen because that was extremely important electorally. That's what I think. I think that if there's not at least one, or maybe, as you're saying, maybe 2 rate decreases, that is catastrophic to the incumbent president.
So let's think about this. Big day tomorrow.
CPI.
Big day. 2 things tomorrow. Well, the Fed meets today and tomorrow. So at 8:30 tomorrow morning, CPI comes. The expectation is an increase of 0.1% for the month of May, which would be good for a year-over-year increase to take you to about 3.4%, unchanged from a month earlier. Core CPI, which I know we all get a chuckle out of this. Core CPI excludes food and energy. I don't think you need to eat, and you don't need to put fuel in your vehicle.
Never.
That looks to be up about 0.3%, and about up 3.5% month, 3.5% from a year ago. So those increases, if that happens, Harry, would be 1/10 of a percentage point less than in April, but will remain well above the target, the 2%. This is we've.
But again, I think what they want, they just want it to keep ticking in the right direction. Like that was a big deal to them last month when it went down 1/10, and I think that that's what we're going to see now throughout the election.
I don't want to sound like a broken record. We were all on it when inflation was at 9, and getting to 5 and 4 was going to be relatively easy.
Yep, you called it.
Now, it's sticky. We're kind of stuck here at these levels, and I don't think the Fed has any intention, Harry, of moving off of that 2% inflation number.
I don't either.
So when you look at the Fed, again, meeting today, meeting tomorrow, all indications are no change with respect to rates. And it's all about, remember the dot plots, like where, how are these dots plotting with respect to where we're going in the future. But the Fed is certainly, it seems, Harry, more hawkish now than they were previously just last meeting. It's all going to be about Powell's press conference. I mean, I know that we talk about this, and a great exercise for your listeners, if you have some time tomorrow, 2:15, 2:30, turn on the networks, the financial news networks, and just watch the indexes move on every word that he speaks. It's incredible, Harry. I don't want to call it an EKG because it's very erratic. But it's something that I think it does have some interest, obviously, for us and our team, but the average person really doesn't spend much time looking at this.
Nope. And they see something that's 1/10 of a percent, and it almost doesn't even register that it's a big deal. But the difference between it being 1/10 of a percent in their favor or 1/10 of a percent higher is really a big deal, isn't it?
Yeah, and Harry, I think the question is, again, goes back to January, 6 cuts.
Yeah.
Now, 3, 2, 1, maybe even 0.
Is 0 becoming more likely than 1 or 2 cuts, or is it still?
There are a lot of strategists that are saying this year there's going to be no movement in the Fed fund rates, and that puts extreme pressure on businesses, especially small businesses.
And that will actually be a de facto resignation to the fact that things are not going well. But if they can lower rates, I believe they get to say our policies are working and it's taking time, but we're going in the right direction. I think there's a huge nuance difference between those two worlds.
I think the one thing to recognize here, Harry, and we've been through this, I don't know how many times, the Fed, like it or not, they're wrong. They're always too late. They're always too late to the game, and they're too late to the cuts, or put the increases in, and then they're too late to make the cuts.
Yeah,
and then at the end of the day,
agree with that.
That has tremendous impact with respect to the economy.
Halftime break. We're going to be right back. Chuck Malamut, for all of your financial planning needs, you can reach the Malamut Group at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office at 609-383-2010. This portion of our program also brought to us in part by Batteries Plus right here in Northfield. When I say right here in Northfield, I mean basically nearly connected to Broadcast Center. We share a common little driveway area where if you pulled into Broadcast Center, you could make your way easily over to Batteries Plus without having to go back out onto Tilton Road. They're one of our WPG industry aces. So if you have a car, a truck, marine, RV, camper, golf cart, ATV, mobility scooter, or motorcycle, and you need a new battery, Batteries Plus has it right there, and they'll help you. They'll take the old one and help you with the new one. So it's really a great one-stop to deal with that, because if you go and pick up a battery somewhere and you have to schlep it, and then you have to take the one out and you have to put the new one in, and then you have to dispose of the old one, it really makes sense just to go to Roy and my friends at Batteries Plus. If you need any of the storm season stuff, LED, emergency lighting, portable generator, surge protectors, Batteries Plus has them all. Broken phone or tablet screen, they can fix it. Cell phone battery, if it needs replacement, they can do it while you wait. I've done it. Watch and key fob batteries, same thing. Get a replacement while you wait. Anything you have that's broken, if it's the charge port, the speakers, the microphones, the screen itself, anything involving the inside of a phone, they can fix it. Batteries Plus, and we fix it. 900 Tilton Road in Northfield and Route 73 in Mount Laurel. Stop in to one of the locations. You can enter to win a pair of tickets to see a great concert, Journey and Def Leppard, in one evening. Back with Chuck Malamut right after this.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
32 minutes past the hour, Hurley in the morning, with 3 stories that you can follow right now on the WPG Talk Radio 95.5 app. The Atlantic City Police, they have released body-worn camera footage. You've got to see it. It's completely unedited, and you'll see a hero, actually, at work. 8 females, 4 adults, 4 juveniles, arrested in Atlantic City for assaulting police officers, and a first sneak peek at Atlantic City Restaurant Week 2024. We'll be right back. It's all
from the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network. I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. Yesterday was such a nice weather day. Let's do it again today. With one minor addition, the chance of a pop-up shower this afternoon. Otherwise, partly to mostly cloudy skies and still comfortable, high of 74. A few clouds tonight, low of 60. Tomorrow looks good, partly sunny, dry, seasonably warm, high 79. Heating up to 84 on Thursday with a mix of sun and clouds. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today. Here is an important safety.
Enable our skill and tell your smart speaker, play WPG. You're listening to Hurley in the Morning.
We live in a society where everybody is offended.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5, South Jersey's talk station.
We are back at 38 minutes past the hour. Chuck Malamut continues all about your financial matters. Chuck, time is yours.
So, Harry, as we started, we talked about some of the discrepancies with the reporting that we're seeing come across. So I think your listeners should be made aware that the ISM manufacturing PMI recently showed weaknesses. The ISM services PMI also, did show some strength. So what you're seeing, Harry, I guess the best way to put it here is a continuation of mixed signals with respect to our economy. Some say it's too hot, some say it's too cold.
Goldilocks.
But what's happening, with the Fed in particular, this tighter monetary policy, typically takes a long time to impact the economy.
The Fed has thrown so much since COVID-19 at the economy, and do you think that they have been effective, or have they been left wanting?
I want to say more the latter than the former.
Me too.
When you think about this tighter monetary policy, Harry, on average, it takes the lag time between the first Fed rate hike and a recession is typically about 29 months.
Wow.
So if history is any guide, and that does in fact happen, it's going to put us in the beginning, and it's going to put us in the beginning of a recession sometime in August. So.
Wow. But understand something. From your slightly younger and slightly more attractive younger brother, remember what I said about this. They will never acknowledge a recession before November 5th. Impossible. Even though everything could indicate that, and that it should be said, it will not be said. They will come up with a way to explain that's not the case.
So, Harry, when it comes...
We won't have to wait long for that prediction.
Well, look, we're
4 months.
We're middle of June, so
4 months.
It's not hard.
Nope.
What does your reverse time clock say? How many days for the election?
I don't have it on this particular phone. I used to have one, actually. It was given to me. It sat on my desk. It was beautiful. But we know that it's basically 4.5 months away.
So let's swing back to the Fed for a second. As we talked around it just a few minutes ago, the European Central Bank, they began hiking rates, Harry, in August of 2022. That was 5 months after the Fed. Since that point in time, both central banks have pretty much increased rates in tandem. Last week, however, the ECB moved away from that usual alignment with respect to the Fed and did cut rates by 25 basis points to 3.75%. So despite a slight upside surprise in May's preliminary inflation data, inflation in Europe has stabilized since February, remaining relatively flat and below levels here that we're seeing in the U.S. So the move by the ECB, has created a lot of questions about, the Federal Reserve's, our timeline. Are we, the Fed is so determined, Harry, not to ease until it's more confident about cutting inflation to 2%.
Why is it so different between Europe and America? We used to always lead the way. Europe's ahead of us.
They are. I mean, they started cutting rates. Their, inflation seems to be in check there. I don't know. There's some people saying that the Fed has lost their way.
I think they waited too long. They should have cut rates.
There's some questions about a strong dollar and how that impacts international businesses as well. But, Harry, it's going to be really hard to get to that 2%. Now, does the Fed come out and say, okay, we're going to revise? We're good.
And accept something higher?
We're going to make it.
So it's okay.
We're going to make it instead of 2 or 2.5 or 3. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't think they will.
Hey, look, we live in times where a recession used to be 2 straight quarters of negative GDP, and then that happened, and they changed it.
So, Harry, not only did they cut rates in Europe, but the Bank of Canada was actually, they were the first of the G7 central banks to lower their rates. And during this cycle, they cut their policy rate 25 basis points to 4.75. They're of the opinion that it's reasonable to expect further cuts if inflation eases. Although the path is going to be gradual. So again, there's another country, or a country, just to the north of us that is ahead of us.
But then there's another country, an ally that we'll talk about after the break, that actually had their credit rating downgraded. We'll be back. Don't go away. Chuck will explain what that means next. It's 44 minutes past the hour, early in the morning, with Chuck Malamut, talking all about your financial matters. To reach Chuck and his Malamut Group at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office, call 609-383-2010.
Starting your day the right way with Hurley in the morning.
It's a refreshing drive to work in the morning.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. Hurley in the morning. WPG Talk Radio 95.5. You're waking up with Hurley in the morning.
Ocean City.
EHT.
Brigantine.
Mays Landing.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Thank you. Welcome back. As Chuck shared about the Bank of Canada lowering interest rates, he can share now something in France that's going in the other direction. Chuck, time is yours.
Harry, so what happened last week? France's credit rating was downgraded to AA minus from AA by S&P, and concerns about, go figure, government debt as a share of GDP.
So they went from AA to AA minus.
They did.
Okay.
They did. And government debt as compared to GDP is going to increase through 2027. The original forecast was just the opposite was going to happen. So,
by the way, you saw they had that Europe is right now having a bloodbath in terms of
their elections.
The left is losing everywhere. It was so bad in France that Macron has actually dissolved the parliament and called for all new elections. There'll be geopolitical stuff over that.
You know, the geopolitical concerns right now, Harry, I think in the 32 years soon to be
July 1st
that we've been doing this together, I've never seen it as
prevalent
as it is now.
Yeah,
I mean,
agreed.
it's everywhere. It's not only here, but you're seeing it obviously throughout the world, and that does have an impact with respect to the equity markets, not only domestic but international as well, which is obviously a concern to all of us.
Now, this next topic I'm surprised a little bit about because this would be a change from just like a week ago. Not your show, but the issue, because I thought that OPEC, and this is OPEC Plus that you're going to be talking about, I thought they were purposefully tightening the spigot, but you're about to say that they're set to normalize production.
They're going to normalize their production, Harry, right now over a longer time frame than was originally expected.
Okay.
Oil did fall pretty precipitously last week over concerns about slowing economic growth. Brent did fall below $80 a barrel for the first time since February at the end of last week. And Harry, it's trending in the right direction, but I think we kind of talked about this last time. You were, Johnny, on the spot with respect to gas prices.
Mm-hmm.
Gas prices are not falling in line with respect to oil.
And they haven't been falling at all. I just paid $4.20.
So the national average through Friday for unleaded, $3.52 a gallon. A year ago, actually, believe it or not, $3.54.
Wow.
Just down. It was down 2 cents. But the levels that we were seeing at the end of this past year, we were about $3.12 a gallon. So
and we're at about $3.40 right now.
Yeah. So $3.52 is the national average, pretty much in line with where we were in the previous week. But what we're seeing is the gas is not dropping like oil.
Under the headline, is anything allowed to be good news? Earning more on your cash, which initially people would say, well, that's a good thing if I'm earning more, could be an inflationary issue. There's nothing's allowed to be good anymore, is it?
Well, Harry, think about this for a second. Americans in the first quarter earned about $3.7 trillion from interest and dividends. It's up about $770 billion from where we were, 4 years ago before all this happened. Some economists are now of the thought process that this extra income is contributing to, again, sticky inflation, because if you think about this for a second. If you are earning more in your interest-bearing accounts, you went from virtually zero, and if you're in a, insured money market fund or a money market mutual fund, you should be at, close to 5. I mean, that's money you didn't have to spend. So if you have $100,000 in your money market fund, Harry, and these rates stay for the better part of a year, that's $5,000 in your pocket that you didn't have. And what are you going to do with that $5,000? Are you going to competitively go spend it? Which again is going to, not necessarily. I mean, the economy, people want us, the economists want us to spend, but you get to the point where you're overspending, and I think that's what we're seeing here, day in and day out.
You teased, even though it hasn't hit summer by the calendar officially even yet, but it will soon. You teased about the dog days of summer. What are you looking at?
Harry, what typically happens during the summer, even though we've put in the all-time highs in the equity averages that you mentioned just a few minutes ago, technicals are stretched to a certain degree. There's not a lot of fear baked into the market, so not necessarily a good formula. when you look at that. And sentiment is very, very optimistic. So remember the boat? Everybody's on the same side of the boat here.
Yeah.
Now we think what's going to happen, because volume, does decrease fairly significantly in the summer. And as you get to those last 2 weeks in August, virtually volume dries up, and you need volume so you don't have volatility. But Harry, don't be surprised if volatility does pick up as we get through the summer months. And then I'll go back to what you've talked about, I don't know, 10 times today. We're getting very, very close. We're getting closer to that first Tuesday in November.
Which that's the prism. Everything will be seen through that, even when people say it's not, it is. So that's huge. This I almost would have disputed, but I have too much faith in you. 401k balances, more money, less problems. I thought a lot of people borrowed from their 401ks, and that this doesn't appear to be an operative statement to me.
So there's about 500,000 people, Harry, right now that have balances of over $1 million or more in their 401k account. The average balance for millionaires is about 1.6 million, and people say, well, that's impossible. How am I going to get there? Again, we've harped on this, and we talk about our children and our children's children. If you started early enough, think about this for a second, to get to 1.58 million, a 17% contribution off of your pay, okay, for 26 years on average is going to get you to that number. I mean, it seems like it's a stretch,
but it's doable.
But it's like anything else. It's good. You create good habits,
discipline,
and you stay with those habits.
And getting started, the younger, the better.
Well, absolutely, but I think, again, what's happening, it's all right now, and it's all about politics, and there's just a lot of people that are really paralyzed by what's going on in the world.
Well, you
today.
notice how, and it's going to get even more amplified when we are near, especially a presidential election, sometimes even with a critical midterm election, if the balance of power appears that it's highly competitive and it could switch predicated, upon the result of the upcoming election of whatever, year we're talking about. But in presidential election years in particular, as we get close, like the CPI, the unemployment numbers, everything is magnified.
Harry, right now, 60% of Americans say they're following the news. Regarding the upcoming presidential election.
That's a lot.
And while we're still months away from the big day, about 65% of the people that are watching are already worn out by so much coverage.
And I understand that. It's exhausting. It is.
And not only do we have an election here
1 minute
in this country, globally speaking, there's 88 economies that represent more than half of our population. They're having elections this year.
See if you agree with this statement, and I'm bringing it home as well. So I'm not trying to do something, no deception here. The world right now appears to be electing new governance. The world does not appear happy with the present course that we're on.
Well, look at what's happening over the last couple of weeks. And Harry, think about this. India, U.S., Indonesia, 1.4 billion, 341 million, 279 million. Those elections are up this year.
This is presented and sponsored by Chuck Malamut. Tuesday mornings in the 8 o'clock hour, 609-383-2010. The Chuck Malamut Group.
From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame, you're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
Thank you. Welcome back. It's 6 minutes past the hour, and if you look at your calendar, this is the day each month that we present, that Atlantic Prevention Resources presents and sponsors Dr. Bob Zlotnick, and always a pleasure to have the important content that Dr. Bob shares. He has a wonderful guest that's standing by and an important topic that begins right now. Dr. Bob, welcome.
Good morning, Harry.
Good to see you.
First show of the summer.
I know. Welcome.
I mean, it's not officially
summer.
Yeah,
but it feels it.
It's traditional summer.
Yes.
Since it's after Memorial Day.
Correct. I go with that.
All right.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, too.
Here we go. What will you be talking about today?
We have had, as you know, Atlantic Prevention Resources, a partnership with Seabrook for many years, going back to the 90s, perhaps with, referring clients, when they weren't our clients at the time because we didn't do treatment at the time, but we did information and referral. And we were actually listed in many local, regional, and national guides to how to get help. As a member of the National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Addiction, we were like if somebody called their toll-free national number, it would ring in our office.
Wow.
NCADD. So we're not a member of NCADD anymore, and NCADD has reorganized, and so we may join again. But so for many, many years, before we opened our treatment center 15 years ago, we did referrals, and we prided ourselves on doing unbiased referrals. We never took a dime. We never taken out to lunch, or we didn't, we did it the right way.
You did the right.
I believe it was ethical.
Yep.
I may have gotten a lunch once from Rich Fallon at the Lighthouse, but but the fact is that we made referrals independent of any. We sent people to where we thought was right for them, based on what we knew about places. Seabrook House was one of those places, and so was Lighthouse, the old Lighthouse before RCA. And then we even sent people out of state. I sent numerous clients, as you know, to Karen in Pennsylvania, if they had the right insurance or if they could, work that out. North Jersey, commonly. So we've had this partnership with Seabrook for decades now, and I've been working with Sean Collins, one of their reps, for probably about 10 years or so on many projects, programs, all kinds of events. They've been a great partner with us, sponsoring a lot of our events. Sean is the chair of our Join Together Atlantic County coalition for many years, and very active. And so we, every once in a while like to bring somebody from Seabrook in, talk about, something that I don't know nothing about. And so I have Dr. Adrian here, Dr. Adrian Doherty. Okay. And she is the director of wellness. I
was going to say Duarte.
Yeah, that's what I said in the parking lot.
Say it again.
Rhymes with 40.
Doherty.
Yeah. No, Doherty, like 40.
Doherty.
Rhymes with 40.
Okay, that's good. I got it now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure that people that don't know have said Duarte.
I did it.
All kinds of names.
And I know there wasn't a little phonetic thing at the end, a little fancy finial or whatever that's called at the end. I got it now, Dr. Adrian.
Yes. So Sean, been talking to Sean about this, and there's something that's quite important. I mean, everything is important in our area, but something that I really want to talk about. And Dr. Adrian seems to be the go-to on this. So we're going to talk this morning about, and Dr. Doherty has a doctorate in acupuncture and Chinese medicine. So we're going to talk about holistic medicine. We're going to talk about how Western medicine, what is our traditional, going to the doctor, the lab work, the pharmaceuticals, meets Eastern medicine.
Interesting.
That's what we're going to talk about.
I like that.
And so, she gave us, you and I both got a little packet of a tea bag, herbal tea, and some lavender spray, which I'm going to spray right after I get out of here because I want to smell it and I don't want to.
Would some call traditional and alternative?
Yes, absolutely. So, Dr. Doherty, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Move a little closer. Or you can pull it towards you, too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. So how did you get into this, first of all?
I was working, I have a bachelor's in science from Temple University, and I was working with brain injury out of school. I had a degree in rec therapy, and it was a minor in rec therapy. So I was certified in recreational therapy. I was working with brain injuries, and we were doing vocational rehab. It was at Moss Rehab in Philadelphia. It was a really great place. But what happened was I found that after Western medicine is amazing with acute brain injury issues, And so what I found was after the acute phase of brain injury, there needed to be a little bit something different to help. So I started doing some research, and I found that acupuncture and Chinese medicine helped brain injury longer term for the chronic issues.
While you were at Moss still.
While I was still at Moss. And so when I did that, I kind of decided that I might need a new career choice, and so that's what I did. So I went to move to California, but it was northern. And I went to school there, a place called Five Branches University, and I studied my master's in traditional Chinese medicine there.
Wow.
And then I came back this way, and I started working at, I have a private practice, but I started working at Seabrook mainly because Seabrook has always had yoga and acupuncture and like their wellness department was always pretty extensive.
Which is unusual.
It is.
And 15 years ago, it was really unusual.
It was. And like what grew from there, I think, and not necessarily Seabrook setting the stage, but it was what grew from there was other places now have yoga. And they'll have acupuncture maybe once a month or once a week. But
bring somebody in.
Yeah, but nobody has what we have at Seabrook. And I think like that's what kept me there for the 9 years that I've been there. And it's what keeps me there. I love what we do there, and you'll hear all about it. But that's where how I ended up there. And while I was at Seabrook, I had decided that I wanted to study a little bit more. And so I took on a different track of like, this is how I got my doctorate. I ended up studying where they did a lot of research and did a lot of like, I was able to look into it more from a research perspective, which is where we're all going anyway, because everybody wants to see the research. Everybody wants to see the studies. They want the numbers. So that was where
evidence-based.
Yeah. So that's how I ended up with my doctorate. I went to a sister school in New York, but the original school is Pacific College of Oriental Medicine, which is in San Diego.
So you have a doctorate in Oriental medicine?
It's in traditional Chinese medicine.
Oh, wow.
So it's called TCM, but traditional
That's very
Chinese
cool. I mean, like stuff that goes back thousands of years.
Yes, it does. And it seems to work because it's been around for a while.
I do one of our programs, this is just an aside, but one of our programs is education at the local Intoxicated Driver Resource Center for convicted drunk drivers or those who have pled guilty or refused a breathalyzer. And one of the things that I talk about is alcohol in China 12,000 years ago. That's where they started. That's the first known use of alcohol was in China 12,000 years ago. Wow. 12,000 years, Harry. You know how old the wheel is?
How old is the wheel?
6,000 years.
Twice as old.
So it's twice as old as the wheel.
Priorities.
Well, listen, you know people. How are we going to get this rock over there?
With their feet,
right?
But drinking,
right? So, but anyway, it's just fascinating to Asian Chinese medicine, specifically. My dad went to China a lot on business, and he would bring back crazy things. Would sometimes get them confiscated on the way back because nobody knew what they were. But he would give us this stuff. Try this, and I was afraid. I would have wanted to send it to Dr. Joe Bunting to check it out. He's a local pharmacist. An old school pharmacist.
Oh, okay.
So talk, what is holistic medicine? I think I know what it is, and I think it's like treating a person's illness from a worldly, a whole perspective.
I think holistic can be anything that's not sort of maybe Western based. I think it's because other countries or other medicines focus on the whole human being. So it's not, I was just having this discussion with one of the patients yesterday who's like, my knee hurts. And they're like, why are you sticking needles in my head? And so the conversation turned into, if we don't calm the mind, we can't treat the body. And so you have to kind of treat the whole person. And it ties into like physical as well as emotional. It ties into, so I will put needles in the knee when the knee hurts, but I am going to try to calm the mind and then move blood. So I'll put needles down by the foot because you want to bring it past the knee. You want to bring blood flow through. And so the idea behind it is manipulating blood flow, manipulating energy in the body, but also calming the mind so the body will be accepting of the change. And so you have to heal the whole person. And I think, like, tying it back into Seabrook and the whole person, that's where the Western medicine comes in. That's where the Eastern medicine comes in, and that's where clinical comes in. You're not going to have somebody with an addiction walk into a place and only need acupuncture. You're not going to walk in and only need just meds. You'll never not need the clinical aspect.
The whole toolbox.
You have to do it all. And the toolbox is exactly, you stole my line.
Sorry about that. I'm just here observing.
It's not a black doctor's
But I'll
bag.
tell you what I was also thinking about listening to this, Dr. Adrian, in terms of maybe if we generalize something, it seems to me that most people do traditional first, and then they will do holistic if traditional doesn't work. You could shift that paradigm and do the non-traditional holistic and never need pills or maybe some of the other stuff. If you could control high blood pressure naturally, I've seen these different techniques that can be done that people can do and bring down all of a sudden something that was high or borderline high down to 120 over 80.
Meditation has been known to lower blood pressure. I mean,
but any type of, like yoga, any type of exercise.
Rather than taking pills,
I think
once or 3 times a day.
It's so much easier to take a pill in the morning.
Yeah, I think it comes down to where did you grow up, right? Because I think in the U.S. we kind of have this idea of that's what we were brought up on, right? And now I think people are starting to be a little bit more open to other options, and I think that's the mood. I don't like to get into the discussion of the role of pharmaceuticals, the role of insurance companies. They're kind of more of a business, whereas in the past it was a last resort type of thing, and so. With staying focused on the health conversation, it becomes a matter of what we were taught and what we learned growing up or where you're from. Because when I was in China, a lot of the people who were looking into being treated, the mood had changed there too. But I will say they would start out trying the traditional Chinese medicine, and if that didn't work, they moved to Western medicine options. Now where it was when I was there.
In the big cities or in the countryside or both?
Well, a little bit of Well, I would say probably in the big cities. I'll explain that.
Well, the countryside's big cities now.
Yeah, well, that, but also the country tends to be poorer. And so what happens is poorer people will always go with traditional because it's more affordable. Their traditional Chinese medicine.
Herbal. And,
so they'll do it because it's more affordable. And they also, there's different work orientation, like they work in farms. They can't take off and just run into the city.
They can't take a sick day.
No. So they go for 3 days and get everything treated, and then they go back to work, and they do it in shifts, and they have to go stay in a hostel. But it's a different setting. But now Western medicine has made their way into China a little bit more, and so has insurance.
Very interesting. Brief time out. We'll be right back. Dr. Bob Zlotnick, the president and the chief executive officer of Atlantic Prevention Resources, is presenting the director of wellness for Seabrook, Dr. Adrian, as we continue right after this.
Hurley in the morning.
Harry Hurley is the only person that can make sense of what's happening in Atlantic City.
On WPG Talk Radio 95.5. Starting your day the right way with Hurley in the morning. WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app. Hurley in the morning.
They stick to the facts.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
We're back 23 minutes past the hour. Dr. Bob Zlotnick is presenting his monthly program titled Under the Influence. Dr. Bob, time is yours.
Thank you, Harry. We are here. We're visiting with two members of the Seabrook staff today. We've got Sean Collins, and we have Dr. Adrienne Doherty, Director of Wellness at Seabrook. And I just want to talk for a minute about Seabrook's history. When I worked in Vineland for several years before I moved to Atlantic County, I was with the Southwest Council. That's what it's called now. And we had a great partnership with Seabrook at the time, and we had trainings there. There's a great room. I think it's in the basement with the wooden rafters. I mean, the facility is phenomenal.
Yeah.
It is a great place. I mean, I went to treatment for substance use disorder. They didn't call it that then, in the 80s in West Philly.
Mm.
Now, just picture West Philly with the L going by, and the middle of pasture land where our spinach and stuff comes from in Bridgeton, Cumberland County. For miles, there's no cities, there's no, it's pastoral out there. It's very peaceful. There's eagles flying around. I mean, it's just you're near on the bay, on the Delaware River there. It's just gorgeous. And so, could you imagine going to a more beautiful place to get help, to get well? And that's what we're talking about, wellness. And this year is Seabrook's 50th anniversary, founded by the Deals, Ed Sr. and Peg. And Peg was Ed was a recovering alcoholic himself, and very early on in alcoholism recovery, and started this program. And Peg was very supportive of spouses of people with alcohol problems, alcoholics. And so they were a great team. I never met Ed. I think he passed before my time, but I did meet Peg once. And then Ed Jr. took over and ran the place phenomenally. And it's now has merged with a behavioral health company out of Tennessee. Is that right? Okay. So, a few years ago. But it's still the same Seabrook. Mm-hmm. And so we still make referrals there continuously because our outpatient program can't treat people overnight, obviously. We don't have a license for that. So we make referrals to Seabrook. So we were talking with Dr. Doherty about Eastern medicine and its influence, especially, acupuncture, its influence on making people well. And I want to get into something that's really interesting to me is the trauma, childhood trauma or adult trauma and veterans. And so I want you to bring us now to how important this is.
So we started a veteran program, and the tactical recovery is unbelievable at Seabrook. For one, you're right, the grounds are amazing. It's 44 acres. There is so much to do on the grounds, but then what we do with the grounds is probably also more important, especially for our tactical recovery program. We have a softball field. We have a volleyball court. We have a ropes course. We have a labyrinth. We have 2 basketball courts. We have horseshoes. We have cornhole. We have all these great outside activities that are sort of based on wellness, go play, relax.
You had me at softball.
It's so fun.
But I'm wondering, is there bocce?
Actually, yes.
Oh, there is.
There you go.
They played it over this weekend.
All right, I'm moving in.
They just brought it in
I haven't been on campus in a
location.
decade. I haven't been on decades. I haven't been on campus. So.
Yeah, it's amazing. So, and so the other parts of it is that we get to utilize that. So we have team building exercises that we do outside where our veterans really shine. It's these amazing, I don't even know what you call them, but one's like a wooden A-frame and you have to work together to walk it across the grounds.
Oh, I like that.
And it's amazing. And the veterans, I bring out all the patients, but our veterans are the ones who can bring it together.
Of course they can, because they were trained as a team, and they probably, that comes right back.
And it's amazing when you see the light in their eyes, too, because they're kind of just struggling through every day. They're trying to get up. They're trying to go to all the groups. They're trying to stay focused. And they're sick, and they have, physical problems and mental issues. And then you put them out on this grounds, and we do these activities, and they just light up, and you get to see them shine. And it's really amazing. But everything plays that part, right? So they have a little bit more time at Seabrook than our regular residential patients.
That's good.
It's
the longer the better.
Because the continuum of care.
Harry and I have talked about that for years.
Yeah, the continuum of care is so important. And where that plays a really big role with them is they'll get acupuncture 4 and 5 times a week, or have the option to. And that's acupuncture, that's cupping, that's gua sha, it's a bunch of different Chinese practices. But they also get yoga each day, and they can use the gym each day. And they actually have 2-hour periods where they can use the gym. And so
to some is yoga a new experience for some?
Oh, yeah, most of them, yeah. But the nice thing about it is, I think where it is when they come into our wellness department, it's not hey, do you want to go play basketball? We actually are okay, tell me what you have going on, especially with our new patients. So I meet with them, and then, whatever their physical and emotional needs are, then I start to be okay, now you're going to meet with our personal trainer, and you're going to be trained to deal with, and some people are in wheelchairs, so we're just going to get on the recumbent bike, or we're just going to do stretches. And then some of ours are a little bit higher functioning, but maybe just had an injury and and in the military, and so we're going to focus.
Got hooked on pain meds.
Or however. And so what we do is we actually pair up with clinical, and we pair up with, and I have an extensive wellness staff, so we're able to get them you're going to work with the personal trainer today, and then you're going to see the yoga person, and maybe you guys are going to do a private session to work on your specific needs. So we can do a general yoga for sobriety, but then we can also focus on the individual. So where our veterans really, really, really benefit in our program is just that individualized care, because we create an individual schedule for them where they're able to focus on all of their specific needs. And that's not just with me. We do it with clinical, we do it with medical, and then we have a psych doctor, and they play a huge role. And so all of these things tie into, again, that healing the whole person.
And then discharge planning, does that include things like helping them find a yoga studio near where they live, and somebody who knows Eastern Western medicine. I mean, if they live far away, I mean, somebody's got to, you or somebody on your staff has to do that research for them.
So all of us do. So all of the wellness staff, and it's much like discharge planning through clinical as well, where they're going to live, where they're going to be, who their doctors are going to be, who their therapists are going to be, what their outpatient programs are going to look like. We do the same thing in wellness. So if they've really connected with yoga and they're not super
really
excited,
cool.
Yeah, so we get on. There's a national site, and you can look up all the yoga places. We print out all the places for them, so when they go, and some of them I've had to call with them because they didn't want to make that initial call. So I'll sit and call their an acupuncturist and say, "Here's this person. They want to come. Is this something you think you can handle?" And then find out everything they need to know. And then some of them I've even had to map out the way to get there. So it's nice, but it's definitely if we're not teaching them how to do it when they leave, they're
not going to do it.
They're not, and also what's the point? You're not going to benefit right now and then have it just be good forever. You have to maintain with all of these things. So that's where we move with that one.
Is there a pool on campus?
Not yet, but it's
all right.
It's in the top.
Put it on the list.
You finally found something that's not there.
I'm already thinking about the pool. You got 44 acres, right?
We do have the ability to offer ice baths, which we have on occasion individually, and it's based on individual needs. But it is something that we're looking somewhere down the line to make more available.
Halftime break. We're going to be right back. Dr. Bob is presenting Dr. Adrian, Atlantic Prevention Resources, and Seabrook in the house. We'll be right back. Don't go away. 31 minutes past the hour.
The WPG Talk Radio app is everything South Jersey on your phone and in your car through Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Local news, weather, and information updated around the clock from New Jersey's largest radio news team. Easy access to WPG podcasts and more. Powered by Smokers Haven. You'll find the finest selection of cigars at any of their 5 locations. Stop in and let them help you find the perfect cigar to pair with your life. Visit SmokersHavenNJ.com. You're waking up with Hurley in the morning. WPG Talk Radio 95.5. You're listening to Hurley in the morning.
Established, reputable.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
33 minutes past the hour. Dr. Bob, time is yours.
Thank you, Harry. We are visiting with Seabrook, and Sean and Dr. Adrian are here from Seabrook, and we're talking about wellness, holistic, treating substance use disorders from a holistic standpoint, the connection between Eastern and Western medicine. And during the break, we were talking about something I thought it was very interesting. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's
Qigong.
Qigong, okay.
Yeah.
And it sounds, right? It's like bowls or...
No, it's actually... So Qigong by itself is much like Tai Chi, and it's a way to manipulate energy in the body, and it's movement and breathing. And in the past, it was used as a form of martial art. And so, but there are different ways to practice Qigong. But what I do at Seabrook with our patients is I focus on, we get outside, we take our shoes off, we ground, we earth, we put our feet on the ground, we talk about how you interact energetically with the earth, but we also make these Qigong sounds. And the sounds specifically,
you make it with your body.
Yeah, you make the sounds with your body, and it heals the organs in your body.
Can you give us a sample?
I can.
You don't have to.
There's one for anxiety, which I think is a great one to put on the show now.
We could all use it.
Timely.
And the sound for Qigong is Ha. And so what happens with the Qigong sounds is usually you want to be in a comfortable meditative stance, whether you're sitting or standing, much like in meditation and yoga. And you take a deep belly breath, and you actually say the Ha sound on the exhale. What you can't do is you can't project it loudly, and you can't whisper it. It has to naturally leave your body. So,
wow.
Ha, and then you let that sound out until you're not choking, but till your breath
You do
is
that
out.
as long as you can.
You can just do it, just on the exhale,
A full
and then again,
exhale.
and then do it again, and do it again until you feel less anxious. In all honesty, it works really, really fast,
Wow.
and it's effective. And so I really like the Qigong sounds because it's something where our patients can use our 44 acres and sit outside and do some Qigong sounds or some meditation. We do meditation as well as guided meditation. We do silent meditation. We do quiet, silent meditation walks through our grounds and gardens.
In the labyrinth.
Yeah, the labyrinth. And so we do a lot of different things. So they can tie it all back together, which is what we were talking about over break, where it's not just the Qigong sounds. We talk about how to take care of your body according to the season. And this is Chinese medicine based. So each season has 2 organs that are affected by the season.
Is this unique, Dr. Adrian, to Seabrook, the non-traditional, or is this something that's common, widespread?
At treatment centers.
Don't think it's common.
I don't either.
Don't think
but it's really a neat conversation.
It's unique. It's unique to Seabrook. I mean, at least locally.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, in South Jersey. I mean, especially Seabrook being in the middle of Cumberland County, right? It's unusual to me. I mean, and I love it.
It's
Don't get me
definitely
wrong.
different. I mean, I've done my research in other facilities just to kind of see to make sure we're up to date and doing what everybody else is doing and be able to have what people need, right? And what we listen to the patients and what they're asking for. But I definitely think my wellness department definitely brings a different spin to this type of medicine. And like I said, like we tie in, like if I talk about the season and here's the foods to eat and the foods to avoid to help, like it's the heart and small intestine season. It's the season for anxiety. It's the season for insomnia right now, summertime.
What about, what are those plants called, like tomatoes and eggplants? I forget what they're called.
Like nightshades?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that? I'm just
I
curious myself.
A little bit. The nightshades will pop up in the fall, which is the time they grow. So actually tying back into the seasons, the foods that grow during that season are the foods that support that body during that season. A lot of people are like, well, if you're from the East Coast, nothing grows in the winter. And the idea behind that is because you're not supposed to be eating raw foods. You're supposed to be eating warm cooked foods. So
or preserves.
Wow. Yeah. So, but we do pair up with our kitchen. So our chef, who is amazing.
I'll bet.
He,
do you grow? Is there anything growing out?
We're playing with that idea. We definitely have the space.
Sure
it becomes a matter of maintaining. And I think
you need a farmer.
Yes, that and part of we wanted to figure out a way to get we wanted to get the patients involved and we wanted to make it part of the wellness program. And so again, in the talks, but we haven't executed it yet. And it's been, we definitely have the space. It just becomes a matter of figuring out how it all plays out.
Enlightened out in Galloway has a farm and they at Jen Hanson's place.
Yes. And they work the farm?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if the clients or the patients do, but
I don't remember if they do either.
I think that when they graduate patients, they give them jobs there if they need a job. I think
neat.
Yeah, and I think so. The idea behind it is that we pair up with the kitchen, and these are the foods to eat, and these are the foods to avoid. So each season, as he creates his meal plan, we create one together, and so we're able. Again, we tie in dietary. Again, we tie in everybody. So
sounds like a good mix.
And it's a perfect mix, and it's great for the patients to see because we also you got the lavender spray. We also tie in essential oils to their whole stay. So when they arrive,
which is part of yoga too.
We do, and the meditation and all of it. So, but we've also taken it a step further because we like to do that at Seabrook, and we talk about decreasing toxins and in the body and on the body. But we also talk about not allowing for preservatives and additives and things like that. So we actually will introduce the idea of essential oils, but we also have the patients make products. So they make their own toothpaste. They make their own soap, bath bombs.
Wow.
Yeah, we have them make.
There's so many chemicals in like deodorant, aluminum, and it's like
so true.
It's it's harmful.
It is, and so we have that conversation actually. So I'll do a lecture on decreasing toxins in and on your body, and so we talk about that, and we talk about different ways to do that affordably. And so we have them make their own essential oil roller balls, like their own blends for themselves, but they've been educated on the essential oils leading up to that point. And so we try to tie it all together with all departments, and and our veterans really, really like that because some of our veterans are on a fixed income, and so when they leave, they get super excited about the toothpaste because when
it's a lot cheaper
to have. It's powdered, so all the ingredients last for a really long time, and so you have to kind of think about this when you're dealing with people who might not financially be able to just leave and you could buy the powdered toothpaste, but it's probably $15 for 2 ounces. They're not going to do that, and so we teach them how to make it for way less, and it's really fun to see them get into it because a lot of times they look at you and they're like, I'm not making soap, and then I'm like, but you can use it, and they're like, I can use it, and then they they're able to make it, and we do all natural ingredients. We put coffee in it for exfoliating and energy. We put charcoal in it for detoxifying, and they learn all this. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I have heard of that.
So you're dirty, and now you're washing with soap with charcoal in it.
But it doesn't make you. It's not what you're thinking.
I know.
It's interesting,
I'm making a
but
joke.
It is funny. But the toothpaste, when they brush their teeth with the charcoal toothpaste, it gets to be a little interesting.
It's very dark, but then it really does whiten.
It whitens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Without a doubt.
Cool. Hey,
that's exciting.
Something occurred to me when you were talking about this. Do the clients, especially the vets, the patients, do they know about this before they come, or are they hit with this this added layer of treatment when they get there? And what's the reaction? Are any of them this is far out, or
I think with our veterans in particular, I think the veterans are more medically managed by the time they get to us. They get to us through another avenue. They don't just sort of call up Seabrook because they've been calling around. There may have been one or two who've done that, but in reality, I think it becomes a matter of the VA referred. So someone at the VA may know what Seabrook offers, and they're like, I think he's a perfect fit. But what ends up happening is the vet may not be aware of what's happening, or maybe they were told, but they just didn't really understand. And then they show up, and a lot of times they are really shocked. I definitely get people who are like, yeah, that's not my thing. And then I'm like, look, you're going to be here for a little bit. You don't have to try it today, but just listen what everybody else is saying, because nobody's really unhappy with the services.
And most people come around?
Absolutely. I haven't had any that haven't. Yeah.
Friend of the program just wrote in that they would love to learn about this. This is very
It's on the Seabrook website, seabrook.org.
Seabrook.org it is. We'll be right back, and then we'll be uninterrupted until Brian Kilmeade at 6 minutes past the top of the hour with Dr. Bob Zlotnick, Atlantic Prevention Resources President and CEO. He is visiting with Dr. Adrian and Sean Collins from Seabrook. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Very interesting.
Hurley in the morning.
Not only the news, but perspective too.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. WPGG Atlantic City. WENJ HD3 Millville. A Town Square media station.
Since 9/11, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation has been committed to supporting our nation's first responders and veterans. They support America's heroes like U.S. Army Major Jonathan Turnbull. Now, Major Turnbull sustained devastating injuries at the hands of an ISIS suicide bomber. Tunnel to Towers gave him a specially adapted smart home designed for his needs. Join Tunnel to Towers. They're hoping all of us will donate $11 a month so this great work continues. Their website, the letter T, the number 2, the letter T.org.
The best things in life, they come in twos. 2 scoops of ice cream, 2 tacos. And now for a limited time, get our best deal of the year. Buy any phone when you switch to Consumer Cellular and get 2 months of service free. That's right, the same fast, reliable nationwide coverage as Big Wireless, now with 2 months free. Proof the best things in life really do come in twos. Visit consumercellular.com or call 1-888-FREEDOM. Second and third month of monthly base service fee waived for new customers with the purchase of a phone and activation by July 31st, 2024. Taxes, fees, and third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
You're waking up with Hurley in the morning.
Egg Harbor Township, Ocean City, Goshen, Cape May.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
Flying by with Atlantic Prevention Resources presents Dr. Bob Zlotnick. Dr. Bob.
Thank you, Harry.
Yeah.
And as always, it's a pleasure to do this with you for like 15 or whatever years. I haven't kept track, but it's been a long time. I know it's before.
That.
I know it's before we bought, so it must be over 15. It's before our first bocce tournament. Yeah. I want to ask Dr. Adrian a couple things. First of all, Sean, I think she's going to be perfect for the JTAC retreat. Absolutely perfect. I hope we can lock that in if it's not locked in. And I want to ask about 2 years ago, my wife's sister-in-law, I guess she's my sister-in-law too, gave us a Himalayan pink salt lamp. Can you tell me, what do you know about that?
So,
and we use it. I mean, we turn it on.
Yeah.
And I read the book, but I don't know if that's all bunko.
So the Himalayan sea salt.
You know what I'm talking about? You've seen one?
Yes.
The Himalayan sea salt, I think ultimately where they got pretty popular lately is people say it offsets positive electrons or positive energy in the air, but basically it's set off by electronics, right? So it has a negative ion effect on the body. Much like going outside and taking your shoes off and putting your feet on the ground, right? The earth resonates on a negative ion level. That keeps you healthy, that negative ion level. So what happens is the Himalayan sea salt resonates on a negative ion level. It'll offset positive.
It's got metals in that's why it's pink. It's got iron and stuff in there.
So here, we have a salt room at Seabrook for this exact reason.
A salt room?
A salt room.
What is that?
So the walls are made of Himalayan sea salt.
I did not see this coming.
I didn't. When I asked, I had no idea.
By the way, I happen to love Himalayan sea salt.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you use it on food?
Yes.
Yeah.
Particularly when I'm in Disney World. They use it a lot there, and I just love it. And we have it at home now.
Do you grind your own?
It comes out
in
of
a little
grinder.
grinder.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I have that too.
We have it at the office.
Yeah,
Yes.
I will say, like, quick offside, but I got into a car accident and I was hurting all over, and I didn't have any, Epsom salts, and so I took all of my Himalayan sea salt from the kitchen and I dumped it all in the tub, and no joke, I felt amazing.
I'll bet.
But back to the salt room at
So
Seabrook.
all the walls are Himalayan sea salt.
Thick bricks, like heavy, thick bricks, and so the walls are the sea salt. It's kind of beautiful. There's lights behind it, so it lights up that beautiful
That's
pink.
really cool.
It's
Yes.
very toned down. The rest of the walls are done in cedar, and so it smells amazing.
I'll bet.
We have a salt grinder attached to the wall that blows in sea salt, so it grinds
Into the air.
salt and blows it in. So the idea is the walls alone are going to create a negative calming ion effect on the body. They're going to offset the positive ions. The actual salt in the air, you're going to breathe it in, and when you do, it's going to open or treat sinus issues. It's going to treat allergies. It's going to calm everything sinus-wise, but also it's going to get into your lungs, and when it gets into your lungs, it boosts your immune system.
Yep.
And so it's absolutely amazing. So I'll have a veteran come in, either COPD, something like that, or asthma,
They can breathe
wheezing, and they'll go into that salt room and they'll come out not wheezing. It's really amazing.
Quick comment. One of the big reasons that we live in this area, my family.
Oh, the salt air.
The doctor that my father was seeing said, I think you should move to the Atlantic City area. The salt air, he believed, was restorative. That was very progressive back then.
Mm-hmm.
Like
we're talking World War II era man.
40s, 50s?
Yeah, and that's when we moved here.
From where?
From the Philadelphia area.
Okay. Huh.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
My grandfather was East Gordon Street in Philadelphia, right off of the L. And we moved. I wasn't alive then. My parents moved
down here
because of that suggestion about the salt air.
Well, you remember the ghost of Dr. Jonathan Pitney, of course, Michael Doyle.
Yes.
Who dressed up at conventions in Atlantic City, and he would talk. He carried a bag. He looked like a doctor from the 19th century.
Great listener of the program.
Talked about his horse Chalky.
Yep.
And so
he would always be in character.
Atlantic City was founded on that salt air.
Yes.
It was founded, I mean, it was like a real estate push, I guess.
Remember the babies and the incubators?
Yeah, the incubator babies.
On the boardwalk? Yep. I mean, there was a lot
I don't
to
remember
all
it,
this.
but I remember from Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah.
But the origin of Atlantic City was a restorative healing place because of the salt air. And it was a great marketing. I mean, it was before the casinos and before,
Yeah.
But the doctors that did it wasn't, poppycock or anything. They really believed it.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to it.
There isn't, and you wouldn't fully get it unless you go in and try it. I think that's the other thing where my patients are like, that sounds really dumb. And I'm like, it's 20 minutes. Just go in. I'll turn on the salt. Just sit back and relax. We put some zero gravity chairs in there. Zero gravity chairs, when you lay back, it takes all the pressure off your spine. So it helps with back pain, and they just relax. And I've yet to have anybody come out of there and be like, what does that do? I don't understand. It's amazing, and it works immediately.
I want a salt room now.
You should. It was great. Our maintenance team put it together. We just bought, it was a DIY. We just bought all the parts, and they just created it, and it was beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
Is the Himalayan sea salt expensive?
It was expensive.
Yeah.
The lamps are like 30, 40, 50 bucks.
Yeah, yes.
For a big,
it was expensive.
But I'm thinking about the bricks
the bulk
in the room and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
They got to come from the Himalayas,
Yes.
FedEx.
That's hard work.
UPS.
Very hard work.
DHL.
Yes. Tracking number.
I have one other thing I want to mention. I don't know where we are on time, but we have 10, 15 minutes. But
13 exactly.
13 minutes. Okay. So I want to know more about acupuncture, and I mean, because I've never had acupuncture. I also want to know what acupressure is. I think I know.
Yeah.
I think one's needles and one's not needles.
That's correct.
So I questioned a lot of questions about acupuncture.
In my old life, we had massage therapists, and many of them did the acupressure. And I'll tell you what.
You mean at the casino?
Yeah. And there are people that don't believe in that. I've seen it work. That you hit a certain part of the foot, let's say.
Oh, reflexology, right? Isn't that what that is?
It is. It's provably true.
My dad went to China 4 or 5 times a year for 15 years, and he swore by reflexology. So much so that he lived in Philadelphia, and every time he came to visit us, since we moved here, he wanted to go to the boardwalk in Atlantic City and get his foot manipulated or whatever.
It's amazing, actually. So I was going to bring up, but Dr. Bob did it. You've mentioned the acupuncture.
Mm-hmm.
Do you also do acupressure?
I'll tell you what I do instead of acupressure, mostly because it comes down to time and like numbers. We have a lot of patients and a lot to do. And so acupuncture is really effective. I do a lot of group acupuncture. And so I'll have 7 to 10 tables in a room and I'll get all of them on the tables and get it all done. But the reality of it is that I do set up private appointments, but the acupuncture, in my personal opinion, is more effective than acupressure. But if I have somebody who's afraid of needles or doesn't want to do needles,
you don't want to create a phobia or feed a phobia.
I don't force anything. I mean, you're not going to do that, especially in a rehab. So I'll do acupressure on that person. But what I usually use, and this is yet another thing to add to your new information, is I use magnets. So I will stick there on Band-Aids. I use magnets on the acupressure points.
I've heard of this.
It is unbelievable. You'll find a lot of negative research on this or not proven research. But I promise you, it's one of those things, like you said, about just trying it.
Are they real strong magnets? Or
yes and no. Like not the ones that I get. You can get like a full-on like back brace with strong magnets in it, and that's what you'd want to do because the back is a more complicated joint. It's a bigger joint. But I use these little small ones on Band-Aids, and I'll put them on. This is a headache point. This is an acupressure point for headaches. So someone will come in and they're like, I just have a headache. I can't do wellness today. I'm like, here's 2 magnets. Go take a walk or go lay down or go sit in the salt room, and let me know how you're feeling. And no kidding with my magnets, if they are going to work for you, because it's not something that has to work for everybody, but if it's going to work for you, by the time they walk to my door, within 30 seconds, their headache has changed. And
is there a placebo effect in any of this, or
not with the magnets?
No,
I would say, look, there's some people that want to believe, right? And I'm all for it. Go for it. But I'll promise you, I've had people look at me like, you're crazy. I did research. Magnets don't work. And I'm like, humor me. Just put them on. It's not going to hurt you. Throw them in the trash. You don't like them. And they come back and they're like, I can't believe it. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I did it to the doctor at Seabrook recently, and she was having knee pain, and I said, I'm going to stick these magnets on. The doctors never asked me for help, only because they're busy. But and I said, I'm going to put these magnets on your knee, and no joke, by the time I get back to my building, you're going to be
and
feeling
they let
different.
you, and they were.
She did, and she was absolutely floored at how, like, it didn't fix her knee.
This is an MD or a DO?
MD, yeah. And so it didn't fix her knee, but she definitely felt so much better. And so it's a matter of understanding, like, I'm not necessarily here to cure anybody, but I'm definitely here to help you. We do a lot of damage control at Seabrook, right? So somebody comes in and they're probably very physically beat up, very emotionally beat up. They're hurting, they're detoxing. There's a lot happening when they first walk in our doors for most of them.
Most of the healing happens pretty early on. I mean,
it's mostly damage control. And I'll tell you, that's where I come in. Like, I have herbal pain patches that stop pain for 12 hours. I have those magnets that can stop knee pain. I have, like, KT tape if someone's got some broken ribs. Like, just there's different things that we have, but most of it's Chinese-based. The magnet idea, we do TENS units. I teach the patients how to use TENS units. I prescribe them. It's a transcutaneous electrical stim. And so, like, we have so many other things that if you had, like, another 3 hours, I would tell you all about them. But we provide a lot of stuff topically and herbally that ties into the rest of, like, healing that whole person. But if I get somebody in and they're in full detox and they're sweating and they're shaking and they can't sit still, I'm not going to be like, lay down, let me poke you with a needle. Do I think it would work? Yes. But we have other stuff.
They're not ready.
I actually have a hydro bed, so a warm water jet massage bed. We also have, like, a amethyst biomagnetic mat that I put them on to stop withdrawal symptoms. So it's a heating pad, but it has crushed amethyst stones in it, and they stop pain. Like, we have all of this at Seabrook. So much more than, like, we have time to talk about. But we have something for everybody. Like, it's where we meet you where you are. And what
must have been a huge investment to I mean, in the wellness center
over time. I think it's always I would say about half this stuff has been there, but then when Summit came in, then the rest came in. The salt room was built. We were given a whole wellness building, whereas in the past we've only had, like, a spot in the back of a building by the gym. And so, like, but we have a full gym. We have a full cardio room. We just got new equipment. Like, it's such a great spot for healing. And we'll meet you where you are. So if you're the person who wants to run to the med window because you're nauseous, go ahead. Go there. But if the Zofran doesn't work, then they come to me and they're like, I took some Zofran, I'm still nauseous. I can look at their tongue and find out what's wrong with their stomach, and I can give them orange peel tea or ginger tea to make their nausea go away immediately.
Ginger's great for
It
that.
is. Ginger is, but it depends.
Ginger ale.
Well, it depends on if your stomach is hot or cold. And in Chinese medicine, when I look at your tongue, it tells me if it's hot or cold. And if it's hot, the ginger's not necessarily going to help right away. Ginger's good for you, but it's not going to help with that. So that's where the orange peels come in. And so we do Chinese teas with the patients, so we educate them on tea. And this is all tied into the everyday. It's really interesting.
This is amazing.
I'm blown away.
Me too.
I'm blown away.
That's exactly the phrase I was going to use.
I never expected in a million years.
I do realize I didn't necessarily answer your question about acupuncture and acupressure.
No. It's fine.
But acupressure is in place of acupuncture, in my opinion. And if somebody needed to pressure instead, like I had somebody who did not want needles, so yeah, I did acupressure on their arms and whatever.
The most I know about acupuncture is an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm where Larry David goes. And I mean that's the most I know about acupuncture.
It manipulates blood flow. It redirects blood flow. It stops pain. It calms your mind.
I could use all that.
It creates an endorphin response. If your knee hurts and I stick a needle in your knee, your body's going to send extra blood flow.
Right,
It's going to respond,
right?
But if I put some needles in your head and I put some in your hands and I put some in your feet, I'm just redirecting the blood flow now, but I'm also trying to calm your mind. So your whole body relaxes.
How does it change the blood flow? Explain that.
Well, it's that endorphin response.
Oh.
So when if I pinch you and your skin turns red, that's an endorphin response.
The blood is rushing to that.
If I stick you with a needle and your skin turns red, then you're manipulating blood flow.
And the needles are really tiny, right?
You create a response.
Yes.
What gauge of needle are you talking about?
So mine are range between maybe 38 is my thinnest.
That's really tiny.
It almost looks like as thin as a piece of hair, and they're flexible. So they're not. I think the idea behind I don't like needles becomes that hypodermic, putting something in, taking something out. These needles are not. They're just meant to create an endorphin response. They're just meant to move blood. They're just meant to sort of stimulate.
If you watch Steven Seagal movies, one of them, he's using the acupressure, and he actually has it almost. They're almost smoking like they're connected to some kind of incense or something.
So it's actually something called moxibustion. It's the process of burning a specific herb called mugwort, and you can burn them on the needles. I think they do it in movies just to for shock effect or just to, however. But I do it in my private practice. I don't do it in It's called moxibustion. And it's the herb that's most likely used is something called mugwort, and it's put on the edge of the needles and it's lit on fire. It's meant to warm the needles. And if you see the needles up close, you'll see that they have like a coil at the top. So that's the ones that are used for moxibustion because it redistributes the heat, so it's not going to burn you because you think metal in fire.
Right.
It doesn't really work that way. But it is an incense. Like they because of translation issues, it is called incense, but it's not. It's an herb that you burn to create a specific heat. That herb tends to burn really, really hot, and with that, it creates heat moves blood, and that's that idea behind our biomat as well. Heat moves blood, and a lot of times we get people with like severe leg cramping and withdrawal. That could be potassium and magnesium, but it's also likely to be dehydration, and really they just need better blood flow to those muscles. So we get them some water, we get them some magnesium and potassium, but we also move that blood. We do it with acupuncture, we can do it with cupping, we can do it with the tables. So again, meeting you where you are, but it's meant to manipulate blood.
How about the warm stones or the hot stones?
The massage therapist at Seabrook doesn't do that currently, not for any other reason except for we offer so much other stuff. She does our yoga, she does our Pilates, our Zumba, she does our
regular massage and traditional
they're
massage.
Great. I mean, the heat behind it. In our place, we have so many other options for heat that I think like the stone would just be, sadly, another thing to wash, honestly. But it's like we try to keep in mind
everything has to be
sterile,
kept real. Yeah,
we keep in mind the sterile atmosphere of
just like any medical.
Yeah. So we try to keep it simple.
A
Mostly.
little over 2 minutes left in the program.
Well, I want to wrap up and just talk about how honored we are to have this ongoing relationship with Seabrook after so many years. Going back to Ed Deal Jr. and before the merger. And thank you for coming out here. I mean, this flew by for me. It really
wonderful.
Absolutely.
Dr. Adrian, I think you are fantastic.
Thank you. I definitely appreciate you having me here. And
I'm going to invite you to our JTAC retreat.
You're going to come do some Qigong sounds with us.
If you're free. You're on the list anyway.
Thank you.
You get all the JTAG invites, so.
Thank you, Dr. Bob.
And when I get home, first thing I'm going to do is turn my salt lamp on. Because the thing, I never turn it on. I'm afraid to leave it on overnight because,
fire or something.
I'm not going to lie. Mine sweated all over my nightstand. I got rid of it. But I
down here with the humidity, yeah. The people that gave it to us live in Colorado, and the humidity level there is like 15%. It's like a humid day for them.
At Seabrook, I run a dehumidifier. Keep that salt room nice and dry.
I'll bet. Because eventually it would disappear over time.
Yeah, it's pretty humid at Seabrook, just in that area.
Well, thank you, Sean, for setting this up. Thank you, Dr. Adrian.
Thanks for having me. This was amazing.
Really,
well done.
This was a lot of fun.
Very educational.
And so just what we have to look forward to next month, we are doing a Radio Town Hall meeting on cannabis.
Excellent.
Or marijuana, as most people call it. We are...
the new Schedule 3. I'm just... Sorry.
We are in August. We have a guest named Jared Lombardi, who is going to talk about some other wellness issues. I just met Jared for the first time, and very interesting story.
It's going to be a great summer.
Yep.
Excellent. Anything in closing? 30 seconds, Adrian.
Just thanks so much for bringing attention to the importance of wellness, especially in addiction and recovery. And I think it's amazing what Dr. Bob's doing over there. And I think it's... June
29th, Seabrook's 50th anniversary, 11 to 3 at the main campus in Bridgeton. That's Seabrook's 50th anniversary. Open to the public. You have to RSVP, though. So go to seabrook.org to find out the information. Their 50th anniversary, 11 to 3. And wear all white. It's an all-white event.
Thank you, Dr. Bob. Thank you, Dr. Adrian.
You're welcome. Thanks so
Thank you very much, Sean. And this is a wrap on Atlantic Prevention Resources presents, and they sponsor this monthly program in the interest of the community. It's such a very important program, and we appreciate everybody's listenership. Got a lot of nice feedback about you today, Dr. Adrian.